Chapter 1850. If you can't hold on, hold me tight. You can climb on my back at any time, Xiao Jin said in a low voice, and began to rush into the monster hunt. Yan Xiaoyi's face was pale. She looked at the black scythe in her hand and slowly closed her eyes. The 100 solution pill, indeed, did not have that effect. What she said was a lie to Xiao Jin. At this time, if she did not let Xiao Jin relax, Xiao Jin would be distracted by her, and both of them would die in the monster horde. Her only way now was to combine her and the black scythe into one, to let the black scythe use this body of hers to fight. A gust of deathly air shot out from the black scythe. That deathly air, in a split second, followed Yan Xiaoyi's hand and spread throughout her entire body. When Xiao Jin noticed the change in the woman's aura behind him and turned around, Yan Xiaoyi had already combined with the black scythe. Her beautiful eyes in the pitch-black void were extremely dazzling. As her eyes moved, the deathly air flowed. That originally extremely beautiful face was now even more exquisite. Her temperament also underwent an earth-shattering change at this moment. If the previous Yan Xiaoyi was like a mischievous and adorable girl, then the current Yan Xiaoyi was like the night god who blended into the night, and also like a Rakshasa from hell. Her entire body was filled with a frighteningly cold aura. Xiao Jin's expression changed slightly, not understanding Yan Xiaoyi's sudden change. Shut up. The clear voice was sinister and cold. Take care of yourself. Don't drag me down. This was indeed Yan Xiaoyi's voice, and he had seen this voice coming from Yan Xiaoyi's mouth with his own eyes. But this tone, these words, it did not sound like something Yan Xiaoyi would say. He was full of questions, but Yan Xiaoyi did not give him time to answer them. Yan Xiaoyi had already grasped the black scythe tightly and started a frenzied massacre. Xiao Jin was speechless and could only cooperate. The two fought side by side and gave their backs to each other. Even Xiao Jin was extremely curious about Yan Xiaoyi's current change. But such a change did not affect the tacit understanding between the two. The cooperation of the two, the brutal massacre. There was no end to it. This battle was incomparably fierce, and the time limit was extremely long. In the chaotic battle, no matter how strong the two of them were, it was inevitable that they would be injured. The movements of the two of them gradually slowed down. Yan Xiaoyi put her body and mind under the control of the black sickle blade. However, this method could not last for too long. After a long time, the two of them were covered in scattered scars. The sight of human blood made the monsters howl even louder. More and more monsters appeared around them. Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin kept thinking of ways to break through the monsters and attack the two huge monsters. As long as he killed those two monsters, he would be able to kill them. These monsters would definitely worship them as kings. However, they couldn't get close at all. The two huge monsters were protected by the tens of thousands of monsters. Death was like a rock pressing down on their hearts. The black sickle blade knew its master's thoughts. If he didn't protect Xiao Jin until he ran out of energy, then Xiao Jin would be safe. She must not fall. Xiao Jin had the same thoughts. He must ensure Yan Xiaoyi's safety. Both of them were forcing themselves to hold on. In the battle, the black sickle blade constantly devoured the monsters to replenish its strength. Suddenly, the huge monster that had been wandering around the periphery, unknowingly, it had already rushed into the group of monsters, quietly attacking Yan Xiaoyi's back. Chapter 1851. Both of them were already exhausted. Yan Xiaoyi had no way of reacting to the sneak attack of the humongous monster. The huge monster's sharp claws slashed towards Yan Xiaoyi's back. Yan Xiaoyi is about to be torn into pieces. Xiao Jin suddenly grabbed Yan Xiaoyi's wrist and pulled Yan Xiaoyi into his embrace with force. At this moment, the deathly aura in Yan Xiaoyi's eyes suddenly dissipated. What replaced it was a pair of clear and beautiful eyes. The aura of the black sickle blade dissipated. Now, Yin Xiaoyi was just Yin Xiaoyi. Yin Xiaoyi's delicate body softened as she fell into his arms. Before he could react to what had happened, she only felt a gush of hot blood splatter on her face. Yin Xiaoyi's heart trembled as her eyes widened. The gigantic monster's attack pierced through Qiao Jin's shoulder. That warm blood was Qiao Jin's blood. Yin Xiaoyi's heart felt as if it was being torn apart by an ice-cold hand. No. Qiao Jin, no. Why did he save her? Why did he have to use his body to save her again and again? She didn't need it at all. She was clearly about to die. She wouldn't be able to survive until she left the battle plane. He thought back to the attack from the Nightwalker in the secret room. He stood in front of her without hesitation. Now he once again stood in front of her. Yin Xiaoyi's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. Bean-sized teardrops rolled down uncontrollably. His tears mixed with the blood on his face, making him look extremely pathetic. Are you stupid? Don't you dislike me? Why do you always treat me like this? Why did you save me? After crying bitterly, her voice turned into a low whimper. This time it was because of their brotherhood. What about the second time? Was this still brotherly love? She didn't believe it. Qiao Jin clearly liked her. However, Qiao Jin did not answer her. Instead, he raised his hand and gently stroked the blood on her face. He smiled warmly and asked, "Are you all right?" His gaze and tone were filled with urgency and eagerness. Yin Xiaoyi's tears fell even more violently. Even at this time, he was still thinking about whether she was all right. He was clearly the one who was in trouble. Yin Xiaoyi's eyes were misty with tears as she held Qiao Jin's hand tightly. Her voice was firm and slow. "Slut Jin, you've repeatedly risked your life to save me. Are you telling me that in your heart you actually don't dislike me?" She curled her lips slightly. She suddenly raised her hand and placed it on his face. Her slender fingers caressed his face. It was clearly ordinary and had nothing special about it. Why did she fall in love with him? Yin Xiaoyi wanted to smile, but she no longer had the strength to maintain the smile on her face. Qiao Jin opened his mouth and was about to speak, but Yin Xiaoyi's finger stopped it. But in the next instant, a pill was pushed down his throat by Yin Xiaoyi's finger. Qiao Jin had yet to regain his senses. Yin Xiaoyi was already smiling lightly as she shook her head. "Slut Jin, don't deny it, at least at the very last moment. Let me believe that you really like me. Are you?" Qiao Jin's thin lips moved slightly, wanting to explain something. Suddenly, a scorching burning feeling spread out from the profound jade heart that was wrapped around his heart. He thought of the pill that Yin Xiaoyi had stuffed into his mouth just now. "Xiaoyi, what are you doing?" Yin Xiaoyi didn't know where the strength came from, but she suddenly raised her hand and forcefully pushed Qiao Jin away. "Xiaoyi, don't mess around." Qiao Jin steadied his feet and was just about to step forward and pull Yin Xiaoyi back. But he saw Yin Xiaoyi take a few steps back. She smiled lightly and shook her head. Asterisk. Chapter 1852. Her smile was extremely beautiful, but it revealed an unconcealable determination. That smile nearly bewitched Qiao Jin's eyes. Qiao Jin's heart viciously felt a throbbing pain spreading throughout his body. His body stood stiffly on the spot, unable to move. He had interacted with Yin Xiaoyi for so many years. How could Qiao Jin not see what Yin Xiaoyi wanted to do now? His heart was in pain, his thin lips trembling. He wanted to pull Yin Xiaoyi back. However, the burning sensation in his body made it impossible for him to control his body. It was the pill that Yin Xiaoyi had just fed him, that pill that was of a higher grade than the essence energy pill. Just as he swallowed it down his throat, he could clearly feel the profound energy in his body surging violently like waves, crashing into every vein and tendon in his body. Qiao Jin looked at Yan Xiao Yi in a daze. His eyes were filled with pain. Since she had such a strong pill on her, why didn't she swallow it after being injured? Why did she give him all the elixir pills? If she died because of him, she died in front of him. Did she think that he would live alone? Yan Xiao Yi looked deeply at Qiao Jin's face, like she wanted to remember his face in her mind with one last look. His lips trembled as he silently spat out the two words Xiao Yi, although it was silent, but Yan Xiao Yi heard it extremely clearly. It seemed to have given her a lot of courage. Yan Xiao Yi slightly closed her beautiful eyes, a thin mist spreading at the bottom of her eyes. However, her smile was extremely beautiful and moving. Qiao Jin, if you can get out of here alive, please remember there is a girl called Yan Xiao Yi who has always loved you. A drop of blood dripped from the corner of her eye, like a blooming datura flower unparalleled in beauty. After that, she turned around and leaped up. After thousands of monsters, those two huge monsters didn't even have time to react. They saw the figure of a human girl appear in front of them. They bared their fangs and were about to tear the girl in front of them into pieces, only to see an intense light shoot out from the girl's body. No, Xiao Yi. Looking at that light shoot out and light up the entire empty space, a low roar exploded from Qiao Jin's throat. Yan Xiao Yi actually wanted to self-destruct. He wanted to use self-destruction to kill the two huge monsters. She wanted to create a way for him to live. Qiao Jin's pupils dilated bit by bit. In an instant, everything in front of him gradually disappeared. His eyes could only see the beautiful smile on Yan Xiaoyi's face, as well as the glow from her self-destruction. No, Yan Xiaoyi cannot die. He could not imagine a life without Yan Xiaoyi. He said he would protect her. He had said that both of them would definitely survive. He could not go back on his word. He could not go back on his word to Yan Xiaoyi. He wanted to live. He wanted Yan Xiaoyi to live. His strong willpower caused the medicinal effect of the pill in Qiao Jin's body to surge even more crazily. Suddenly, Qiao Jin felt all the blood in his body flow in reverse. All the pores on his body felt like they were about to explode. A powerful and majestic force instantly eroded everything about him. Qiao Jin's aura instantly swelled and became majestic. His robe fluttered in the wind, making a loud sound. His ink-black hair fluttered wildly like seaweed. That ordinary-looking face appeared exceptionally bewitching and strange. It gave off a suffocating sense of charm. The change in Qiao Jin's temperament caused Yan Xiaoyi to be slightly startled. However, what shocked her even more was Asterisk. Chapter 1853. Qiao Jin's inky black eyes were actually covered by a circle of golden light. His eyes flickered with an extremely dazzling luster. Golden eyes. A pair of golden eyes. Not waiting for Yan Xiaoyi to be astonished. That man emitting enormous golden light all over was already flying straight over. His robes flapping in the wind showed how fast the man was. The surrounding monsters didn't even have a chance to approach Qiao Jin. Just as they neared, they were sent flying by the golden light around Qiao Jin. The monsters that were slightly closer were directly torn to pieces by the golden light. Then the black scythe edge swiftly followed, completely devouring the shattered remains of the monsters. A hand tightly wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist. Slut Jin, you can't! In the instant that Qiao Jin's hand wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's waist, Yan Xiaoyi's pupils suddenly widened. Her hand struggled with all her might, wanting to push Qiao Jin away. She was mobilizing the power of her profound heart jade, wanting to detonate it and self-destruct. If Qiao Jin came over, he would be detonated by her as well. But in the next instant, Yan Xiaoyi saw the golden light on Qiao Jin's body collide with the profound heart jade detonating light released from her body. With a bang, a wave of air rolled. The detonating light released from Yan Xiaoyi's body was abruptly torn apart and suddenly dissipated. Ugh, Yan Shaoyi's chest tightened, and a mouthful of blood sprayed onto Qiao Jin's body. The profound heart jade in her chest stopped its restless detonation. Yan Shaoyi's entire body instantly softened, and she collapsed into Qiao Jin's embrace. Qiao Jin tightened his arms. Roar! The two enormous monsters felt that these two humans didn't put them in their eyes at all. Wasn't this looking down on the two monster leaders? The two enormous monsters instantly withdrew their many years of fighting and gathered together to attack in the direction of the two humans. Careful! Yan Shaoyi nestled in Qiao Jin's embrace, clearly seeing the two enormous monsters heading straight for Qiao Jin's back. She quickly spread her 5 fingers and rushed forward. Black Scythe Edge! The black scythe edge floated in midair, and with a flip, it flew towards Yan Shaoyi's palm. Qiao Jin's arms tightly wrapped around the woman in his embrace. His deep voice was extremely calm. Don't move. Leave everything to me. This was an expression and tone that Qiao Jin had never used before. Yan Shaoyi was stunned. She raised her head with difficulty and looked at Qiao Jin's face. The pair of golden eyes reflected her face. A luster that was as bright as the rising sun caused Yan Shaoyi's cheeks to heat up. Clearly it was still that ordinary face. But why did it exude a suffocating charm? Was this the change in temperament that had occurred? Yan Shaoyi felt that her cheeks were getting hotter, and she immediately buried her face in his arms. He said, "Leave it to him." She believed him. Qiao Jin must have improved. Just now, he had used his own strength to interrupt her from detonating her profound heart jade. It could be seen that Qiao Jin's current strength was absolutely not low. "Ants like you dare to compete with the sun and moon?" Qiao Jin's deep voice was like it shook the heavens and the earth, resounding throughout the entire void. After that, the golden light in his eyes flickered even brighter. A ray of golden light broke through the darkness of nothingness. It illuminated the battle plane extremely brightly. Rumble! The battle plane began to shake unceasingly. The surrounding void actually began to split open one after another. The two enormous monsters were also sent flying by the golden light. They still hadn't even had time to steady their feet. Qiao Jin's figure blurred, and he chased after the two enormous monsters in hot pursuit. Immediately, a foot suffused with golden light had already stepped on the monsters' heads. Asterisk. Chapter 1854. Roar, roar! The monster that was stepped on let out a sharp scream. In the next instant, the monster's head was directly penetrated by the golden light. Blood immediately splashed out. The huge monster's body trembled a few times on the void plane. Then it could no longer move. Seeing this, the other huge monster turned around and wanted to escape. But before it could move, its huge body was sucked in by a suction force. Roar! The mournful scream was extremely sharp. The monsters in the surroundings were all shocked to the core. The huge monster was instantly cut into pieces by the golden light that burst out from Qiao Jin's body. All around there was silence. The monsters quietly stared at the two huge monsters whose flesh and blood were flying everywhere, waiting for the two monsters to recombine. These two monsters had already existed since they had consciousness. In this battle plane, the two monsters had been fighting for at least 500 years. This time, they met a strong enemy of the human race. The kings of these two battle planes would definitely recombine into one monster to fight against the enemy together. However, time passed minute by minute. The two monsters that were torn into pieces were like dead meat, and there was no way to recombine. The monsters were horrified, and they all took a few steps back. Qiao Jin held Yan Shaoyi and slowly turned around. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and his golden eyes were shining. "Who else wants to go?" Silence. A strange silence. The monster's perception was extremely sharp. They deeply felt a dangerous aura from Qiao Jin's body. They knew that if they got close to Qiao Jin, The layer of golden light around Xiao Jin's body would shake them away if they angered this golden-eyed human man, and it was very likely that they would become dead meat. Who dared to go up? Xiao Jin's golden eyes swept the surrounding monsters, and he hugged the woman in his arms tightly. Step by step, he walked in the direction where thousands of monsters surrounded him. Xiao Jin just walked in that direction. The surrounding monsters automatically separated and opened up a path. Xiao Jin was like the king of this void space, holding his beloved queen, surrounded by thousands of beasts, and slowly walked forward. This scene made Yan Xiaoyi extremely shocked. One must know that just a moment ago, they were still surrounded by these monsters, and she almost self-destructed to save Xiao Jin's life. And the next moment, all the monsters treated Xiao Jin like a king. The thousands of monsters around them were still looking at each other. Slut Jin, who exactly are you? Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips and fixed her beautiful eyes on Xiao Jin's face. His golden eyes were exceptionally dazzling. She loved those eyes of his. It was as if he could steal her soul, hook her heart, and capture her soul. Xiao Jin's ordinary face stiffened slightly. Then he lowered his head and looked at her with his golden eyes. Don't you think I'm scary like this? Scary? Yan Xiaoyi lifted her hand and touched the corner of his eye. Why do you say that about yourself? If you think the golden pupils are scary, aren't you implying that the class leader's blue pupils are also scary? Her fingertips were extremely gentle. However, her tone was already tainted with a bit of mischief. After we leave this damn place, I'll definitely tell the class monitor about how scary your eyes are. The smile on the woman's face caused Xiao Jin's lips to curl up unconsciously. It was great that she was fine. As long as she was fine, she was still alive. He did not hesitate to expose his identity and use his own power. That was the right choice, as long as Xiaoyi was still alive and well. Even if he was captured and turned into a puppet. Chapter 1855. Suddenly, Xiao Jin felt the weight in his arms lighten. A pair of soft, little hands circled around his neck. He came back to his senses and saw Yan Xiaoyi's exquisite face right in front of him. Her slightly pale lips lightly imprinted on his eyes. Bitch Jin, I like your eyes very much, very much, very much. The woman's soft voice was pleasant to listen to, like a zither string lightly plucking a certain softness in Xiao Jin's heart. His heart trembled slightly, and his hands instinctively tightened around her slender waist. The man's response caused Yan Xiaoyi's heart to suddenly jump with joy. But before her joy could reach her head, the hands on her waist suddenly loosened. Xiao Jin frantically pushed her away, pulling apart the distance between the two of them. Can you walk now? His voice was mixed with a bit of dryness. Yan Xiaoyi's brows tightened. What did his words mean? Wasn't everything fine just now? Why? Why did his attitude towards her become cold and hard again? My power can't maintain this change for a long time. Xiao Jin saw the pain in her eyes and thought of her resolute confessions again and again. His heart throbbed with increasing pain. He didn't want to explain and wanted Yan Xiaoyi to misunderstand him like this, but he still couldn't help it. We have to find a way to leave this plane as soon as possible. Otherwise, the two of us will be in danger again. The woman he loved also loved him, and it was an unforgettable love. But he couldn't express his joy nor the slightest bit of his feelings. The moment the golden eyes appeared, everyone was stunned. Between him and Yan Xiaoyi, there was already truly no longer any possibility. He couldn't give Yan Xiaoyi any more hope. Hearing this, Yan Xiaoyi restrained the pain in her eyes and hurriedly withdrew from his embrace. I'm fine. How much longer can your power hold out for? Yan Xiaoyi was extremely astonished by this mysterious golden power of Xiao Jin's. Just now, when Xiao Jin had stopped her from detonating the profound jade heart, He took the opportunity to send his own golden light into her body. At that time, the external and internal injuries on Yan Xiaoyi's body had more or less healed under the golden light's treatment. Right now, she could stabilize her figure. Soon. Qiao Jin looked at the golden light in his palm and took a deep breath. But very soon, someone will come. He paused and smiled bitterly. They saved us. Qing Luo, Lord Dizun will come? Yan Xiaoyi's delicate brows furrowed slightly as she didn't understand the reason for Qiao Jin's bitter laugh. Wasn't it something to be happy about when someone rescued them from this plane? Qiao Jin shook his head with a smile and did not reply. Indeed, in less than an hour, the golden light on Qiao Jin's body had already gradually dispersed. The domineering aura around him also gradually subsided. The surrounding monsters that were initially obedient also keenly noticed a change in Qiao Jin and turned their gazes towards him. Slut Jin, do you think they will? Yan Xiaoyi looked at the thousands of eyes of the monsters and felt a little scared. I will, Qiao Jin replied calmly. These monsters were not like the two huge monsters from before, which had their own consciousness. They relied solely on their senses and intuition to determine danger. When the feeling of fear on Qiao Jin's body disappeared, they would treat Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi as enemies once again, just as Qiao Jin finished speaking. Chapter 1856. Were they going to continue fighting? Yan Xiaoyi gripped the black sickle blade tightly as she looked at those monsters vigilantly. When will Qing Luo and the Overlord rush over? Qiao Jin looked at his palm. The eyes that had returned to black were full of deep meaning that Yan Xiaoyi couldn't understand. It should be almost. Are you hiding something from me? Yan Xiaoyi kept feeling that ever since Qiao Jin's golden light had dispersed, his mood was extremely downcast. This depression was not caused by the loss of great power. It was as if he was about to lose something precious. His entire person was shrouded in a gloomy feeling. Your golden eye, your power. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips tightly. Could it be? The person who came to save us isn't Qing Luo, not the Overlord. Don't even think about it. Qiao Jin had already pulled her behind him and raised his hand to attack the monster in front of him. At this moment, it was indeed not the time for them to start the you ask and I answer mode. These monsters would not give them the chance or the time to do so. Yan Xiaoyi, who was gradually recovering her strength, raised the black scythe blade and stood back to back with Qiao Jin as they began to kill the monsters in front of them. At this moment, a silver light suddenly descended from the sky. Then, the silver light wrapped around the two of them. At an extremely fast speed, a rectangular space was formed. It was about big enough for one person to stand on. Bang, bang, bang. The monsters rammed into them. However, before it could get close, it was sent flying by the silver light. Yan Xiaoyi was slightly taken aback as she raised her hand to touch the hard protective cover. What is this? What happened? It felt extremely smooth, like the skin of a woman. Yan Xiaoyi was stunned. How could such a smooth thing block the attacks of those monsters? She turned her head and looked at Qiao Jin. Slut Jin, this is the thing that you said will come and save us. Qiao Jin looked at the shining silver object and shook his head decisively. No. Could it be Qing Luo? Yan Xiaoyi couldn't bear to let go. Qiao Jin glanced at his surroundings. The monsters who wanted to charge forward were sent flying again. He sensed his surroundings. He discovered that this barrier was completely isolated from the outside world. Here, he could not sense the aura of those monsters, and the monsters couldn't get close. This realization made Qiao Jin heave a heavy sigh of relief. He slowly leaned against the protective barrier and sat down. He didn't dare to be too relaxed, but at least they were safe for now. All the exhaustion in his body was completely released in this instant. From the moment they entered this battle plane, they had been extremely tense. Constant battles, emotional tension, and emotional collapse. Both of them were physically and mentally exhausted. Seeing Qiao Jin sit down by the side, Yan Xiao Yi also leaned close to him and slowly sat down. Qiao Jin's closed eyes trembled slightly, but he did not speak. Yan Xiao Yi smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. She hugged one of his arms. It was a rare moment of peace, and neither of them spoke a single word. The ancestral tomb. Yi Qing Luo alighted from Yu Ming's car. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the tomb that was about halfway up the mountain. So this is how the ancestor's tomb looks like from below. Last time, he heard that the group of old men from the Yi clan came to their ancestor's tomb. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't put it to heart. From the start to the end, she had been sleeping in the plane, until she was thrown off the plane by those old men from the Yi family and forcefully stuffed into the ancestor's tomb. As for the location of the ancestor's tomb, as a descendant of the Yi family, she totally didn't know. Asterisk. Chapter 1857. I also spent a long time to find the real location of the late emperor's tomb. Yu Ming pushed the door open and stood beside Yi Qing Luo, raising his head to look at the tomb hanging in the middle of the mountain. Most people are unable to get close to this place, so no archaeologists have discovered the remains here. How did you discover it? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. She was very curious about what Yu Ming wanted from the ancestral tomb. He actually made it so mysterious, not letting her know about it. Apparently, it was an extremely important thing. Yu Ming didn't want to say, so she couldn't force him to ask. After all, she had forcefully contracted the Ming mirror which he had been carrying for so many years. Yu Ming's scarlet eyes flickered slightly, because I'm not an ordinary person. Amen. This was a reasonable answer. Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Knowing that he didn't want to talk more, she couldn't be bothered to. With a leap, her sleeves fluttered in the wind. She had already landed steadily in the middle of the mountain, at the entrance of the ancestral tomb. Mo Xian followed closely. Yu Ming naturally wouldn't fall behind. Standing at the entrance of the tomb, the three of them and a misty array eye. Why was the array I brought to the ancestral tomb? Yi Qing Luo's original words were like this. This plain is your turf. Who knows which corner you are hiding in? If you don't let us find you, how are we going to find you? If we can't find you, how are we going to the battle plain? So, you'd better follow us obediently. Let my darling keep an eye on you. After I come out from the west tomb, send us directly to the battle plain. Everything depends on you. Yu Ming stared at the tomb entrance. The expression on his face was a rare solemn. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, looking at Mo Xian. Xian, I'll go in first. They didn't have much time. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi's battle plane could at most last for another 3 days. She had to hurry and rush to the battle plane. Mo Xian's brows creased slightly. His peach blossom eyes were filled with worry. The ancestral tomb gave him an extremely uncomfortable feeling. You're at ease. Yi Qing Luo walked over, putting her arm around his firm waist. This isn't my first time here, although it's been a long time, but the route is all in my mind. The old men of the Yi clan naturally had a map of the Yi clan's ancestral tomb. Back then, when he had let her come in to retrieve the Yi family's heirloom, the azure dew bracelet, the old man had shown her a map. She was no stranger to the tomb of her ancestors. Mo Xian ruffled her hair, although he was extremely unwilling to let her enter. But he understood that Yi Qing Luo had to enter, regardless of whether it was because of what he promised the netherworld, or perhaps a vast water divine artifact. She had to go on this trip to the tomb of her ancestors. Be careful, I'll be right here waiting for you. Mo Xian lowered his head and gently kissed her forehead. Only those of the Yi clan's bloodline could enter the ancestral tomb. Even Mo Xian was unable to follow Yi Qing Luo into the ancestral tomb. Yi Qing Luo assured him in every possible way and left Mo Xian's embrace reluctantly. She turned around and walked towards the tomb of her ancestors. But before he could lift his leg, his wrist suddenly tightened. "That's right, Lil Luo, take this with you." Dmo Xian's clear voice was extremely melodious. Yi Qing Luo's finger seemed to be circled by something. She looked down and saw that it was the azure water ring she had obtained from the tomb of the Ling King. Chapter 1858. Yi Qing Luo touched the azure aqua ring. She raised her eyes and looked at him teasingly. "Do you know, in the plane where we are now, you personally put the azure aqua ring on my finger. What does that mean?" Dmo Xian lifted her little hand and kissed it. "Get married?" Yi Qing Luo's eyes brightened slightly, somewhat astonished. "You even know this?" Dmo Xian stroked her finger. "From the expression on your face, it's not hard to guess." Yi Qing Luo's cheeks suddenly flushed red. All right, just a simple sentence, and he had already seduced her. She had to admit, towards Dmo Xian, she had no immunity at all. And this, bring it along too. Dmo Xian's palm moved, a furry little thing, leaped from his palm onto Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. Small body, furry fur. 9 tails, constantly rustling Yi Qing Luo's face. It tickled Yi Qing Luo's face, and she couldn't stop smiling. She carried little 9 down from her shoulder. "How can you summon little 9? In this plane, I only have a very subtle connection with my war pet. I can't even communicate with it, not to mention summon it out. Your mental power is still not enough. Wait till we return to Nirvana realm. Cultivate your mental power. It will be of great help to your own profound energy, alchemy, and weapon refining." Dmo Xian explained warmly. Yi Qing Luo hugged little 9 tightly, burying herself into Dmo Xian's arms. "Xian, you take care of me in every aspect. I will be too used to relying on you." She used her head to rub against his chest. "I have said that I must be on par with you. You will spoil me like this." Dmo Xian tightened his wrist strength. The slender branch suddenly buckled Yi Qing Luo's lower jaw. He bent down and kissed her lips without hesitation. "My woman, I naturally have to pamper her. If you can't get used to me, I should really reflect on myself, if I am still the one who can make you work hard to be on par with me." Between his lips and teeth, his words were intoxicating. Yi Qing Luo blushed to her ears. She made Dmo Xian's heart burst with joy. She hugged little 9 tightly, giving him a resentful glare. Then she turned and ran towards the entrance of the tomb. It was as if there was a ferocious beast chasing after her. Watching Yi Qing Luo's back view disappearing behind the entrance of the tomb. The gentle smile on Dmo Xian's face suddenly disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a frosty coldness. His peach blossom eyes coldly glanced at Netherworld, who was beside him. Anyone would be able to sense the chill in the atmosphere at this moment. However, Yuming seemed as though he had not sensed it at all. His scarlet eyes were filled with an envious smile as he looked at Dmo Xian. "The relationship between you and Miss Yi is really enviable. I don't have the time to feign civility with you. I'm warning you." Dmo Xian's lips curled up coldly. "For those who try to make use of little Luo, this lord will definitely have a way to make those who make use of her suffer a fate worse than death." Every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. Yu Ming's expression remained calm, as though he didn't understand the meaning behind Dmo Xian's words. In the ancestral tomb, according to Yi Qing Luo's memory, the ancestral tomb was divided into 3 areas: outer perimeter, middle perimeter, inner perimeter. The ancestral coffin was in the inner perimeter, but the outer perimeter and middle perimeter were guarded by extremely powerful Li Lang. To get close to the inner perimeter, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven. The last time she entered the inner perimeter to obtain the Azure Dew bracelet, she had to rely on a lot of high technology before she could barely sneak in. She didn't know if this time, based on her mortal body without any high technology, Could she still enter the inner perimeter? Asterisk. Chapter 1859. After Yi Qing Luo entered the tomb, she rubbed the azure dew bracelet in an attempt to contact Old Man Song. This tomb was originally set up by the Yi family to bury their ancestors. Apart from the complex array that seemed to extend in all directions, there wasn't any particularly frightening or life-threatening mechanism. After all, this ancestral tomb could only be entered by the descendants of the Yi family. It was impossible for the ancestors to harm their own descendants. Yi Qing Luo had heard the Yi family's old men explain this array in detail. A giant formation protected the tomb of the ancestors extremely tightly. This was to prevent the Yi family's descendants from being greedy and vainly trying to obtain all the ancestral artifacts and bring disaster to the common people. Without the support of the Yi family's group of elders, even if the Yi family's descendants entered the ancestral tomb, it would only be a road to death, because once they entered, they would be trapped in the tomb to death. Unless they found a way to break the array, there was no way out. This array, to Yi Qing Luo, existed in name only. She could leave at any time if she wanted to. But what was difficult to deal with was the Yi family's ancestral spirit. And those Yi family's guardians, that was an extremely difficult existence to deal with. Even if she was the Yi family's current patriarch, in front of the ancestral spirit and the guardians, she was only a junior. Goodbye, it would be another torture. Yi Qing Luo stroked her forehead and looked at the circle of cherry blossom patterns on her wrist. The cherry blossom seemed to have a life of its own. The flowing red light was like an electric current jumping on the cherry blossom pattern. Those cherry blossom petals, vivid and lifelike, wrapped around her wrist and slowly rotated at an extremely slow speed. After entering the tomb, she clearly felt the azure dew bracelet's changes. The azure dew bracelet was obtained from the Yi family's ancestral coffin. It was rumored to be the most precious artifact of the ancestors. Yi Qing Luo had expected the azure dew bracelet to have a response to the ancestral tomb. Lass, the old man Song, who was in a deep sleep, had indeed awakened under this response. Following his voice, a white mist transformed into Old Man Song's spirit body. He floated next to Yi Qing Luo, stretching his limbs, and said with a satisfied look, "You lass, you actually brought me here to recuperate." "No, I specially brought you here to recuperate." Yi Qing Luo glanced at the spirit body next to her. "There's an azure dew artifact here. Do you know where it is?" Only then did Old Man Song open his satisfied eyes and look around. "Little girl, you, this is the Yi family's ancestors' tomb." Yi Qing Luo nodded. "That's right, I brought you out from here, and when I was surrounded by that bunch of old men to snatch you, I detonated the plane and perished together with that bunch of old men. Then you brought me to Nirvana realm." Old Man Song furrowed his white eyebrows and immediately said, "How could it be me who brought you to the Nirvana realm? When you brought me out of my ancestor's tomb, I hadn't signed a contract with you yet." Pausing, he closed his mouth and coughed a few times. Forget it. This matter has passed. Try to sense where the azure water divine artifact is." Old Man Song's words made Yi Qing Luo frown. This old man, even changing the topic, was so awkward. It made people suspect that he had a guilty conscience. Earlier he said that she went to Nirvana realm, not because of the azure dew bracelet's power. Then why did she cross over to Nirvana realm when the plane exploded? Asterisk. Chapter 1860. All along, she had always thought it was because of the azure dew bracelet and didn't think much about it. But connecting it to Old Man Song's words and Yu Ming's words, she couldn't help but ponder over the profound meaning within. Her arrival in Nirvana realm wasn't by chance. Her arrival in the 21st century wasn't by chance either. There seemed to be something in the unseen world. He was pushing things forward. She was like a chess piece controlled by Yu Ming, following the rules and doing what she thought she should do. But in fact, it was something that had already been decided. This knowledge made Yi Qing Luo's heart feel somewhat depressed. She had never believed in fate. She had never been willing to do things according to other people's ideas. But at this time, she discovered that everything she had worked hard for was planned by someone else. Her mood was simply terrible. Lass. Old Man Song seemed to sense Yi Ching Luo's depressed mood. He didn't deliberately change the topic, but approached Yi Ching Luo with a serious expression. His voice was somewhat calm. There are some things before your strength has grown to the point where it is sufficient to know. Even if I tell you, it will be of no use. I know you are extraordinarily intelligent. Even if I don't say it, you will have some guesses in your heart. This guess, if I don't point it out, won't it allow you to improve more, to let you find out the truth in your heart and unceasingly struggle? No matter what secrets your body hides, no matter why you transmigrated to Nirvana realm, no matter why you were sent back to the 21st century through the godless array. These, no matter what the reason is, you just have to remember, these are the goals that you need to strive to become stronger, isn't it? The road is walked by yourself. Life is also forged by yourself. No one can control your fate. No one can influence your thoughts. Why restrict yourself to the hands of others? No matter what you are experiencing now, whether or not it was pushed step by others, you just have to remember one thing. When everything happens, what you do is what you feel you should do, what you want to do. Old Man Song's voice became increasingly calm and serious. His eyes, which had always been cloudy, now flashed with a solemn luster. He fixed his gaze on Yi Ching Luo's eyes as he spoke earnestly. Lass, I have always placed high hopes on you and believe that you will be able to carve out a spectacular path which belongs to you. From you, I can see miracles which I absolutely don't dare to believe. He paused as he raised his misty, illusory hand and gently touched Yi Ching Luo's head. An extremely cold sensation gently covered Yi Ching Luo's head. Her heart gradually calmed down from the initial panic and uneasiness. Girl, do you still remember that you once said that when you had the ability, you would definitely reconstruct this old man's fleshly body and give it to this old man? As he spoke to this point, Old Man Song's voice was somewhat choked with emotion. This old man is the protector of the Azure Dew Bracelet. There is absolutely no way for me to become a person again and live like a person. But I believe that if it's you, you will definitely have the ability to do so. Even if you can't do it now, you will definitely be able to in the future. Your body is filled with unlimited hope and miracles. Old Man Song's sonorous and forceful, unwavering words made Yi Ching Luo's heart suddenly see the light. She raised her head and met with Old Man Song's hopeful gaze. Her lips curled into a smile. That's right, no matter if there was someone pushing her fate in the unseen world. But everything wasn't what she wanted to do. Her path was walked out by herself. Chapter 1861. Thank you. Old Man Song. Yi Ching Luo felt relieved. Old Man Song rubbed her head. It's good that you can think it through. The gaze he shot at Yi Ching Luo was filled with admiration and astonishment. He admired Yi Ching Luo for taking his words to heart and was willing to listen to him sincerely, adjusting her own mentality. He was astonished by the fact that Yi Ching Luo was obviously not that old. In the 21st century, she was merely 20 years of age, and yet she had such a firm temperament. Moreover, in such a short period of time, he was able to quickly adjust his mood and understand what he wanted and his goals. This girl was indeed not simple. Her future would definitely be able to shake the entire Nirvana realm and even the upper realm. Yi Ching Luo's brows had already turned tranquil and elegant. He no longer had the gloominess and ruthlessness from before. Old Man Song's hand, with the unique coolness of a spirit body, calmed the restlessness in her heart little by little. Her lips curled up into a pure and bright smile. I've already thought it through. There's a saying in our plane, my fate is up to me, not the heavens. I am not someone who believes in fate. My fate is up to me, not the heavens. Cool. Ku, little Nine rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's face, seemingly happy for her. Yi Qing Luo hugged little Nine tightly and planted a kiss on its forehead. All right, I'm not suited to be sentimental. Let's find the location of the vast water god relic first, and get the god relic first. Goo goo. Little Nine expressed his approval. Old Man Tsang's spirit body floated around her twice. I didn't expect that there would be an ocean water divine artifact in the ancestral tomb. How did you know that the ocean water divine artifact was here? Someone used the whereabouts of the azure water artifact to make a deal with me to bring him back to the Nirvana realm. Yi Qing Luo explained as she walked forward. Old Man Tsang was slightly startled. You met a profound practitioner from this plane? He took the initiative to trade with me. Yi Qing Luo took the opportunity to take out the Ming Mirror. Xian even took the opportunity to let me contract the other party's Ming Mirror. Nether Mirror. Old Man Tsang cried out in surprise, and his body quickly scuttled in the direction of the underworld mirror. He stared at the Nether Mirror in astonishment. You too are a match made in heaven. You can even form a contract with the Nether Mirror. In this plane, the power that Old Man Tsang sensed, the current Yi Qing Luo did not have the ability to compete with him. However, Yi Qing Luo had a heaven-defying presence by her side. DMO Xian, that kid. He actually allowed Yi Qing Luo to contract the underworld mirror. Perhaps this was really fate. Old Man Tsang chuckled and shook his head. He clicked his tongue and laughed out loud. Yi Qing Luo nodded as her brows rose. He's my man, so naturally I'm a match made in heaven. As she spoke, she locked onto Yin Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin's position to check if the Netherworld's protective shield was reliable. After her spiritual consciousness locked in, Yi Qing Luo saw the image of Yin Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin in the mirror. The two of them were nestled within the protective barrier. Yin Xiao Yi was in Xiao Jin's embrace, and Xiao Jin's hand was wrapped around Yin Xiao Yi's waist. Perhaps he had used up all his energy to fight. Both of their faces were filled with exhaustion. Leaning against each other, they slept soundly. This heartwarming image made Yi Qing Luo's lips unknowingly curled into a smile. She kept the netherworld mirror properly and raised her eyes to look at Old Man Tsang. From the looks of it, I don't need to rush to the battle plane to look for them. It was said that after going through life and death together, it would pull the distance between two people closer, deepening the feelings between two people. Xiao Jin liked Yin Xiao Yi. Yin Xiao Yi loved Xiao Jin too. They were in the midst of life and death. Spending time alone would definitely improve their feelings. Asterisk. Chapter 1862. One person and one spiritual body moved forward. She didn't notice that a bright crystal ball had rolled down from Yi Qing Luo's body. That crystal ball suddenly floated in midair and floated in the opposite direction of Yi Qing Luo. It didn't cause any reaction from Yi Qing Luo at all. Yi Qing Luo followed her memory and passed through the periphery without any danger. After reaching the middle area, the formation was obviously much more complicated. It was as if the array was pushing her towards the dead end. Fortunately, Yi Qing Luo knew the way to break the formation. After turning left and right for some time, he finally arrived at the inner layer. This layer was easy to reach, but not easy to enter, because the inner layer was the ancestral tomb. At this entrance, there must be the Yi family's guardian and the soul of the Yi family. Thinking back to the little grudge with the Yi family's guardian, Yi Qing Luo had a creepy feeling in her heart. She hoped that the guardian in the tomb didn't have a good memory. After such a long time, should have forgotten, right? Yi Qing Luo moved towards the entrance of the inner layer with a guilty conscience. Old Man Tsang floated beside her. This was the first time he saw such a timid Yi Qing Luo. He teased her curiously. "Girl, what did you do to make you so scared?" Yi Qing Luo grabbed a strand of hair on her shoulder and blinked her eyes. "If I gave you freedom and tricked you into forming a contract with me, then after obtaining the power of the Azure Dew Bracelet, what would you do? Old Man Song's mouth twitched, and his beard also twitched. I would kill you. Yes, the Yi family's guardian also wanted to kill me. Yi Qing Luo nodded seriously. In order to enter the ancestral tomb and obtain the Azure Dew Bracelet, she had used her silver tongue to fool the leader of the Yi family's guardians. She said that as the current head of the Yi family, after obtaining the Azure Dew Bracelet, she had the ability to represent the Yi family's ancestors and give them freedom. Of course, this was pure nonsense. After all, the ancestors were the ancestors. She was just an ordinary descendant of the Yi family. How could she bring the guardian out of the ancestral tomb and give the guardian freedom? Without the guardian, wouldn't the ancestral tomb be in danger? But the guardian boss had probably guarded the tomb for hundreds or even thousands of years and was tired of the job. When he heard that Yi Qing Luo used freedom as an exchange condition, he didn't even think about it and immediately agreed. It was imaginable that after Yi Qing Luo obtained the Azure Dew Bracelet, she escaped without a trace. The protector was unable to leave the ancestral tomb and could only watch Yi Qing Luo leave. The enmity between them was huge. Old Man Song's spirit body swayed and wrapped around the back of Yi Qing Luo's head. I feel that I'd better go into the Azure Dew Bracelet to hide for a while. Don't. No matter what, you're still my master. In any case, you're the guardian of the Azure Dew Bracelet. You must have a common language with the guardian of the cemetery, right? How about you put in a good word for him? Yi Qing Luo grabbed hold of Old Man Song, determined not to let him escape. When I was in the tomb of my ancestors, I was always in a state of hibernation. I didn't communicate with the guardian of the tomb at all. How could we have a common language? You can't just watch them die. In any case, help me stall him. I'll go to the tomb to find the vast water divine artifact. The two of them tugged at each other, but they didn't try to restrain themselves. Being discovered was completely within his expectations. Who are you? Yi family's several generations of descendants. A deep and cold voice came from afar. Following that, Yi Qing Luo saw a patch of yin qi blowing over. That yin qi gradually transformed into a human figure with only the upper half of his body. Asterisk. Chapter 1863. White eyebrows, white beard, old man. When it got near, the yin qi was extremely strong. Yi Qing Luo took a few steps back and pulled Old Man Song in front of her to block her face. Of course, her action was still a step too slow. When the tomb guardian rushed over, it saw Yi Qing Luo. That face, which was filled with yin qi and majesty, instantly turned sinister as it bared its teeth and roared, Yi Qing Luo! How dare you come back? This roar was deafening. The entire ancestral tomb shook 3 times. Yi Qing Luo shrank back. That old tomb, don't be agitated. I know I'm wrong and specially came back to apologize. Pooh! The tomb guardian didn't give her any face as he spat loudly, as his intangible body charged towards Yi Qing Luo with a swoosh. You know you're wrong? What do you know? According to my understanding of you, you must be eyeing something in the ancestral tomb. Yi Qing Luo was so shocked that she took a few steps back. She knew she was in the wrong and knew that the tomb guardian would not do anything to the descendants of the Yi family, so her attitude softened a little. Old tomb, you know me so well. Why do you have to tell the truth? Just take it that I'm here to apologize. Won't you feel better? Yi Qing Luo's voice revealed a young lady's coquettish tone, as though she was acting coquettishly. But apparently, the tomb guardian didn't fall for this. It widened its eyes and stared at Yi Qing Luo furiously as it roared. I will absolutely not let you take anything away. I will not fall for your tricks again. Thinking of the last time, Yi Qing Luo let it taste the taste of heaven and hell the next moment. The tomb guardian expressed that if it wasn't for the agreement with the Yi family's ancestors not to hurt the descendants of the Yi family, It would definitely turn Yi Qing Luo into a tomb guardian and let her stay in the ancestral tomb for the rest of her life, to accompany her in guarding the tomb. It seemed to have sensed the tomb guardian's intention. Yi Qing Luo's delicate body shuddered for a moment. Shortly after, her eyes curved into a smile as she used her gaze to urge Old Man Song to go up. Last time, it was also an unexpected situation. Who knew that the group of Yi clan elders tricked me into taking away the Azure Dew Bracelet in order to obtain the Azure Dew Bracelet and replace me as the new clan head. Yi Qing Luo put on a pitiful look as she pouted her lips. In order to not let that bunch of old men's evil scheme succeed, I perished together with them and was blown up into pieces of minced meat by the plane. The grave guardian's expression instantly turned solemn. Yi Qing Luo noticed a flash of worry in its eyes. That's right. It was worry. There was no way she was mistaken. The graveyard guardian was actually worried about her. But at the next instance, the cemetery guardian's attitude made Yi Qing Luo start to suspect if she was hallucinating. Explode into minced meat? Do you really treat me as a fool? It swiftly circled around Yi Qing Luo's body and floated one round. Dense in energy, drifted over from the upper body of the spirit body. No matter how one looked at it, it was strange. Its vision fell directly onto Yi Qing Luo's body. This is minced meat. Yi Qing Luo wiped off her tears. You can maintain your soul for 10,000 years and protect the ancestral tomb. So naturally I can also use another method to be reborn after I turn into minced meat. The grave guardian was silent for a moment as though it had thought of something. The worry in its eyes could no longer be concealed. It stared at Yi Qing Luo as its expression turned gloomier and uglier. Just as Yi Qing Luo felt her hair standing on end, the grave guardian suddenly gave her a tight slap on her forehead. I really want to kill you, directly. Guard this tomb with me. Asterisk. Chapter 1864. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Yi Qing Luo was in pain as she hugged her head and scurried backwards. Soon after, he raised his reddened eyes and wanted to cry but had no tears. Back then, I was also turned into minced meat. That's why I couldn't fulfill my promise to you. You can't blame me for this. It's all because of the greedy elders of the Yi clan. Why did you hit me? Floating above the cemetery, Old Man Song, who was watching the show, expressed. Lass, your acting is too over the top. The guardian stared at Yi Qing Luo and gritted his teeth. As the current patriarch of the Yi family, why are you so stupid? You even got schemed by those elders. You've thrown the Yi family's face away. Looking at the grave guardian's gloomy aura, but its attitude was obviously much more intimate. Yi Qing Luo's wariness towards the guardian of the tomb also slowly dropped. This sharp-tongued grave guardian was actually a soft-hearted spirit body. Yi Qing Luo could tell that this grave guardian was wholeheartedly on the Yi family side. It was the guardian of the ancestral tomb, which was also the guardian of the Yi family. Recognizing this, Yi Qing Luo naturally wasn't afraid of the grave guardian. Its earlier worry and resentment towards her were all from the bottom of its heart. It was all from the bottom of its heart. Her feeling couldn't be wrong. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she leaned forward and pacified it. Now I'm still alive. Moreover, this time I've been reborn. My life is even more colorful. It's considered as a good thing. Pausing, the smile between her brows was tinted with some light. In the past, I lived for the Yi family. Now I live for myself, for the people I care about. I like my current life very much. The anger on the grave guardian's face gradually faded. It stared at Yi Qing Luo for some time. All right, don't talk about who you are living for in front of me. This kind of sour words. Tell me honestly, what's your motive for coming to the ancestral tomb? If I tell you, will you let me in? Yi Qing Luo clasped her hands together, hoping to look at it. If you don't tell me, I'll kick you out right now. The grave guardian smiled sinisterly. Was there a need to be so violent? Could it be that after staying here for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, his personality had become twisted? In the end, Yi Qing Luo still succumbed to the Grave Guardian's prestige. That old tomb, the last time I came, didn't I bring along the Azure Aqua bracelet? This time, I'm also here for the Azure Aqua artifact. The moment her words landed, Yi Qing Luo inexplicably felt that the atmosphere had turned strange. That gloomy and heavy pressure made Yi Qing Luo's breathing icy cold. She shivered and looked at the guardian of the tomb. Old Mu, you're the one who asked me to say it. So, you came back this time to take something from my ancestor's tomb, and not to fulfill your promise to me. The graveyard guardian laughed, a sinister laugh. Yi Qing Luo's hair stood on end as she rubbed her arms. If she told the truth, the cemetery guardian would smile at her with a creepy smile. If she didn't speak, the graveyard guardian would kick her out. What could she do? She was also in despair. Why was it so hard to be a human? Cough, cough, cough. Old Man Tsong, who was watching the show, finally didn't intend to watch the show anymore. His spiritual body floated down from midair as he chuckled towards the graveyard guardian. I'm this Lassa's guardian. We're both guardians, so there's no pressure when we communicate. Azure Aqua bracelet? The graveyard guardian saw through Old Man Tsong's power at one glance, and immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. You stinky lass with a mouth full of nonsense. You still dare to bluff me. What did you say about exploding into minced meat? You've already contracted the Azure Aqua bracelet. Asterisk. Chapter 1865. Yi Qing Luo. Did he need to explode just like that? Couldn't he display the dignity of the guardian of the tomb? I accidentally made a contract with him after I was reborn. Yi Qing Luo explained patiently. He is indeed the guardian of the Azure Dew bracelet. After my rebirth, he has been teaching me how to live for myself. She raised her hand. On her wrist, that circle of floating cherry blossom pattern was still floating. The guardian's gaze was fixed on her finger. What is this? Its expression suddenly turned solemn as it rushed over and stretched out its cold hand, poking her finger. Before it could touch, Yi Qing Luo's finger was suffused with a flowing red glow, causing the guardian's hand to fly away. Old tomb. Yi Qing Luo immediately retracted her hand and looked at the guardian anxiously. The guardian shook its hand. Nothing serious happened. Where did you get that ring from? Yi Qing Luo took a look at the profound phoenix ring and shook it. My man gave it as a token of love. Ah. The guardian's vigilant and solemn expression suddenly froze. Yi Qing Luo blinked and asked in puzzlement, This is called the profound phoenix ring. Is there any problem? No, although the guardian said that, but the way it stared at the profound phoenix ring didn't seem like there was no problem at all. Ayaya, don't mind those small details. Old Man Tsong floated over and directly hooked his arm around the guardian's shoulder, circling it tightly and brought it in another direction. As the same kind, we must have a lot of common topics. I believe you have a lot of things that you want to know too. The guardian struggled, but it was no match for Old Man Tsong's strength. Ask me anything. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Old Man Tsong smiled as he pulled it to one side and winked at Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo gave Old Man Tsong a thumbs up. This move was wonderful. She immediately broke into a run and ran towards the tomb in the inner circle. Without the guardian's obstruction, Yi Qing Luo rushed into the tomb smoothly. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's disappearing figure, the guardian who couldn't struggle against Old Man Tsong pushed his hand away. Enough! That lass has already entered. Let go of my hand! TSK, TSK. This old man has long seen that you care about Luo Yu. Old Man Tsong obeyed and released the graveyard guardian. His spirit body floated to the other side and found a comfortable place to sit down. You clearly wanted little girl Luo to enter the inner circle to find the Azure Water Divine weapon, but you're just too proud. You can't let go of little girl Luo's lies to you. Look at how proud you are. Little girl, Luo won't laugh at you." As he spoke, Old Man Song leaned his head against the stone wall. The grave guardian's gloomy eyes coldly stared at Old Man Song. However, he discovered that his gaze was unable to affect Old Man Song in the slightest. He clenched his fists and retracted his gaze in annoyance. He drove his spirit body, which only had its upper body, to float over. "You made a contract with that girl, so you should know her identity," the graveyard guardian said in a low voice. What identity?" Old Man Song raised his eyebrows as if he didn't understand. The graveyard guardian's expression turned extremely ugly. "Don't act dumb in front of me. I don't have the time to joke with you." Old Man Song laughed lightly as he lazily shut his eyes. "No matter what identity she has, in my eyes, she's just a lass." Chapter 1866. Yes, no matter what Yi Qing Luo's identity was. The current Yi Qing Luo was just Yi Qing Luo. The expression on the grave guardian's face gradually softened. It leaned against the stone wall and suddenly opened its mouth. "That profound phoenix ring, is it really given to her by her beloved? Does lass Luo look like someone who would joke about this matter?" Old Man Song glanced sideways at it. "Don't worry. I have personally verified that lad. He treats lass Luo sincerely." His identity. The grave guardian's expression was slightly grave. It sensed an unusual aura fluctuation from the ring. That fluctuation, but no matter. As long as they love each other sincerely, any problem is not a problem. Old Man Song waved his hand. "Don't be too fixated on that lad's identity." The grave guardian knew that although Old Man Song had a disapproving look, but he absolutely attached great importance to Yi Qing Luo. Since Yi Qing Luo's guardian had said so, it naturally had nothing else to say. Old Man Song saw the grave guardian's silence, his white brows raised slightly as he leaned over and patted its shoulder. "You have guarded the ancestral tomb for thousands of years. You should know the Yi family's temperament." The grave guardian was slightly stunned. It immediately flew into a rage as it slapped Old Man Song's hand away. "Ew! Who do you think you are? How dare you pat my shoulder? I am not even familiar with you." Old Man Song laughed loudly as he wantonly patted its shoulder. Two spiritual bodies, it was obviously the first time they met. But they were familiar with each other as though they had been good friends for many years. "Ah!" Yi Qing Luo led Little Nine and walked in from the entrance. She saw a huge tomb chamber. On the stone wall of the tomb chamber, there were a few big words written. Yi Qing Luo took out the luminous pearl and shone it over. On it was written, "Yi Family Ancestral Tomb." She walked around the stone wall and entered the ancestral tomb chamber. The surroundings were bright. The last time Yi Qing Luo took the azure dew bracelet and was in a hurry to leave, so she didn't pay attention to the surrounding environment. This time, Yi Qing Luo wasn't in a hurry to leave. This model was an oval-shaped stone cave. There were 12 glass pillars erected around. On top of the pillars, there was a palm-sized luminous pearl. The 12 luminous pearls illuminated the entire wooden structure. Yi Qing Luo's vision was fixed on the front of the tomb chamber. It was a huge bronze coffin. Was that the ancestor of the Yi clan? Yi Qing Luo had heard quite a number of rumors about her ancestors from those old men. It was said that the ancestor of the Yi family was the king of the world. He could ascend to the heavens, dive into the earth, and was omnipotent. However, he was trapped by love, and in the end, because of the word love, he buried his own life. After he passed away, he was buried here. Towards this ancestor, who died for love, Yi Qing Luo's curiosity was piqued. She released her perception to the fullest, in case she triggered some mechanism by approaching the coffin. Then he walked towards the coffin. Walking to the side of the coffin, Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand, trying to push open the coffin. He placed his fingers on the lid of the coffin and felt a chill in his hand. Just as she was about to push it away, she stopped. In any case, he was an ancestor of the Yi clan. She lifted the lid of her ancestor's coffin. Was it too disrespectful to the ancestors? Forget it. Forget it. Let the ancestors rest in peace. Just as she was about to retract her hand, Yi Qing Luo's fingertips suddenly felt a scorching heat. It was the azure dew ring. Did it sense another divine relic? Yi Qing Luo was pierced by that scorching pain and shrank back abruptly. This shrinkage pushed the lid of the coffin and slowly opened asterisk. Chapter 1867. A loud dong sound was heard. The coffin lid rolled onto the ground. That loud sound shocked Yi Qing Luo so much that her little heart couldn't help but tremble. She hurriedly went forward to hold the coffin lid as she kept apologizing to the ancestors. Just as she lifted the coffin lid, Yi Qing Luo's body suddenly stiffened. That apologizing voice stopped abruptly at this moment. She blinked her eyes as she stared at the inside of the coffin in astonishment. In the coffin laid a young lady who was about 23 or 24 years old. The young lady was gorgeous, her hands crossed over her chest. Her crimson long dress was like a blooming flower, overflowing with youth. But what made Yi Qing Luo shocked was, it wasn't the young lady's stunning looks, but what's going on? What's going on? Come in to find a vast water artifact, and you want to overturn the territory that I'm guarding? Are you purposely trying to go against me? Outside the tomb, the graveyard guardian heard the loud noise and immediately rushed in. Old Man Tsang followed behind. The two spiritual bodies rushed into the tomb and saw Yi Qing Luo hugging the coffin lid, standing in front of the coffin in a daze. A sliver of panic flashed past the guardian's eyes. It wanted to rush up and cover Yi Qing Luo's eyes, but it was clear that its reaction would make Yi Qing Luo suspicious. It resisted the urge as its face turned gloomy as it roared angrily. How dare you, Yi family's descendant? You! How dare you open the ancestor's coffin? I want your life. Saying that, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Calm down, calm down. Old Man Tsang hurriedly hugged it from behind. Perhaps last Luo didn't mean it. Don't convict her so quickly. The guardian's expression was sinister. What else is there to say? She's hugging the coffin lid is the truth. The more he said, the angrier he got. I've guarded the ancestor's tomb for such a long time, and this is the first time I've seen such a descendant of the Yi family. While the two spiritual bodies were arguing, Yi Qing Luo slowly placed the coffin lid on one side. She took a step closer to the coffin. This action made the guardian's expression turn uglier. Just as he was about to berate, he saw Yi Qing Luo pointing at the coffin with a complicated expression. Old Mu, why? The thing lying in the coffin is a piece of stone? He was right. It was a rock. The body of a woman carved out of stone. She had delicate hair on her head and was dressed in a gorgeous crimson dress. However, it was indeed a corpse carved from stone. No matter how lifelike the carvings were, one could still see the difference between a human and a stone. When the tomb guardian heard that, his eyes flickered unnaturally, not daring to look at Yi Qing Luo's eyes. However, on the surface, it was extremely calm. It shouted angrily, What stone? This is your Yi clan's ancestor. A famous ancestor. Ancestor? Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes and slowly leaned against the coffin, fixing her gaze on it. Is the old tomb trying to tell me that after we die, we will all turn into stone? Do you think anyone can turn into stone? The cemetery guardian spat. Buffed. This isn't a stone. This is a secret technique of the Yi clan to protect their bodies forever. It used that kind of gaze to look at an ignorant human, as it disdainfully swept past Yi Qing Luo's face. It looks like a stone, but under this stone is your Yi family's ancestor's real body. Don't you touch it casually. If you damage it, you'll be the Yi family's sinner. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she instinctively shrank back. Was she thinking too much? Chapter 1868. Last Luo, what old tomb said is true. That is indeed the Yi family's secret method to protect their physical body. Old Man Song, who was floating in midair, said in a deep voice, "Quickly close the coffin and apologize to the ancestors." Yi Qing Luo's suspicious gaze swept past the two spiritual bodies. When did these two spiritual bodies get so close? But her gaze was fixed on Old Man Song for some time. Yi Qing Luo chose to believe in Old Man Song's words. She suppressed the doubts in her heart and bent over to close the coffin lid. At the moment when the lid was closed, Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept past the coffin. Why did it feel? Why does this woman carved from stone look so familiar? But for a moment, she couldn't recall where she had seen her before. When the coffin was closed, Yi Qing Luo was forced to kneel down in front of the coffin. The graveyard guardian muttered, begging for the ancestors' forgiveness and the like. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the two huge hands on top of her head finally released her. Yi Qing Luo climbed up from the ground and hugged her head as she stared angrily at the two spiritual bodies. They were indeed the same kind. So quickly they colluded with each other to bully a weak young lady like her. Old Man Song met her resentful gaze and reacted swiftly to change the topic. "Lass, look at the azure aqua ring on your fingertip. It's flashing nonstop. Hurry and find the other azure aqua artifact." Yi Qing Luo's suspicious gaze was still sizing him up suspiciously. Looking at Old Man Song's awkward he-laugh, Yi Qing Luo expressed that Old Man Song was definitely up to something. These two spiritual bodies definitely had something to hide from her. Was it about the ancestors' corpse turning into stone? Or something else? But Yi Qing Luo didn't continue to ask. Old Man Song and the tomb guardian were unwilling to say. No matter how she forced, she couldn't pry open their mouths. Moreover, they naturally had their own reasons for not saying. Yi Qing Luo kept away the deep thoughts in her heart as she placed all her attention on her fingers. The azure aqua ring's restlessness had no intention of diminishing as it continued. She looked around but had no way to sense the whereabouts of the other azure aqua artifact. Woo-woo. Not knowing when, Little Nine had scurried to Yi Qing Luo's feet. Its little mouth bit onto Yi Qing Luo's skirt as it pulled her towards the coffin. Yi Qing Luo was puzzled. "Little Nine, what's wrong?" "Wow. Wah." Little Nine opened his mouth, his sharp voice calling out a few times. "You want me to go with you?" Yi Qing Luo seemed to understand Little Nine's meaning. As expected, Little Nine nodded his head, and while biting on Yi Qing Luo's skirt, he started running towards the direction of the coffin. Yi Qing Luo followed Little Nine over. She had only taken 2 steps when the tomb guardian suddenly rushed in front of her. "What are you doing?" "I'm looking for the azure water artifact." Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. "Why are you so nervous?" When was I nervous?" The guardian of the cemetery spat. Nervousness was written all over his face, all right? How am I not nervous? Looking at the grave guardian's expression, Yi Qing Luo increasingly felt that in the ancestral tomb coffin, that stone corpse must be hiding some secret. Otherwise, the grave guardian wouldn't be so agitated. Suddenly, Yi Qing Luo recalled the ancestor's extremely familiar face. Every time she was about to grab hold of something, she seemed to recall where that familiar feeling came from. But the next moment, she couldn't grab hold of anything. Asterisk. Chapter 1869. Old Moo, stop teasing little Luo. Old Man Song promptly opened his mouth. That girl is very strange. If you tease her for too long and she takes it seriously, you won't be able to explain yourself even if you have 10 mouths. The muscles on the tomb guardian's face twitched as his gloomy eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. But he didn't obstruct Yi Qing Luo as he gave way to her. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and glanced at Old Man Song with a smile that didn't look like a smile. Old Man Song's expression was calm. With a benevolent expression, he smiled and nodded at her, no matter how one looked at it. This smile seemed to harbor ill intentions. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she totally did not see the so-called benevolent countenance. On the contrary, it made her even more certain of her guess. However, she did not want to delve into this secret for the time being. Yi Qing Luo followed Little Nine and walked to the side of the coffin. The little body of Little Nine drilled into the bottom of the coffin. Soon after, it raised its little head and let out a cry. "You're saying the vast water god relic is under the coffin?" Yi Qing Luo asked in astonishment. Little Nine nodded his head. "Woo-woo." Yi Qing Luo, there was only one thing she wanted to ask. Just what sort of eccentricity did the person who had scattered the azure water divine artifact all over the world have? It was fine that he liked to place them in all kinds of cemeteries. This time, he even hid under the coffin. What kind of inexplicable fate did it have with the tomb and the coffin? Yi Qing Luo was extremely certain that that person had a huge grudge with the so-called Kingling, the ancestor of the Yi family. Otherwise, why would they hide a divine artifact that could shake the world in their graves? Once news of the whereabouts of the vast water divine artifact got out, what Prince Ling, what Yi clan ancestor's tomb, they would all be turned upside down. The tomb of the Yi clan's ancestor. If no one could break the formation, the ancestor could still lie peacefully in the coffin. Yi Qing Luo was ridiculing in her heart as she stooped down, following the direction where Little Nine had drilled in, as she felt her way over. The bronze coffin was extremely cold and gave off a strange feeling. Based on Yi Qing Luo's strength, there was no way to push this huge coffin. Her hand fumbled on the coffin. The two spirit bodies at the side looked at each other anxiously. Suddenly, he heard a crisp kacha sound. Yi Qing Luo felt a secret compartment from the bottom of the coffin. She clasped the secret compartment and opened it. Sure enough, in the hidden compartment, he touched a necklace with a bewitching red glow. Rather than calling it a necklace, it would be more accurate to call it a red thread. This necklace was not decorated with any jewels. It was just a red thread that was about the thickness of a pendant. It was simple, yet it appeared extremely dignified and elegant. Especially that red line, it was clearly as red as blood. However, it was also faintly transparent. The red electric current flashed around the red line. It added a tinge of treachery to the red thread. Azure water chains. Old Man Song's spirit body floated over. This is the Azure water chain from the Azure Water Divine artifact set. Azure water's chain? Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and saw the red thread chain. This thing was actually hidden in the secret compartment below the coffin. If it wasn't for Little Nine, I probably wouldn't have the chance to find it. It was no wonder that when she approached the coffin, the azure water ring would suddenly emit a strong reaction. She lowered her eyes and looked at Little Nine as she stretched out her hand and rubbed his little head. "Well done, Little Nine. When we go out later, I must praise you properly to Xian." "Woo-woo." Little Nine narrowed his fox eyes as he rubbed against her palm. To be able to help his mistress, Little Nine expressed his happiness, **. Chapter 1870. Lass, just the Azure Dew Ring's power. You've seen it before, now with the addition of the Azure Dew Chain. Old Man Tsong clicked his tongue. After you get the settled heart pearl in Nirvana realm, you'll really be invincible. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. However, you still can't defeat Xian, right? Perhaps he had hidden something from Yi Qing Luo. Old Man Song felt a little guilty. When he mentioned DMO Xian, he actually avoided eye contact with her as he coughed dryly. That fellow is a rare genius, an existence even more abnormal than you. If you want to defeat him, you need to gather all 5 Azure Dew Divine armaments. And gather all 5? Yi Qing Luo recalled the last time, outside Ling Wang's tomb. She used the Azure Dew Ring's power to exterminate the Dark Forces group of guardians. That power was already heaven-defying enough. She still needed 5 pieces to defeat. How strong was Dmo Xian? Yi Qing Luo decided that after they returned to Nirvana Realm, she must find a chance to test Dmo Xian's real ability. Boom! Bam, bam, bam. Suddenly the ancestors' tomb shook. Only a few sounds of gravel falling were heard. Following that, a few angry and clamorous voices were heard from the quiet inner circle. What the hell is this? Who brought this damn thing in here? Someone dares to barge into the Yi family's ancestors' tomb, really treating us guardians as non-existent. F***K. Still dare to hide. You damn thing. Stop right there. See if I don't blast you into dregs. It was noisy and it sounded like there were at least 4 different voices. When the guardian of the cemetery heard those voices, his expression immediately darkened. How did we attract those guardians who only know how to sleep all day? That's right, it was those few. Right from the start, Yi Qing Luo had emphasized that there were those few guardians in the inner circle. Other than the old tomb, there were 4 other tomb guardians. But those 4 tomb guardians were usually in deep sleep and rarely bothered about the matters of the ancestors' tomb, including the last time Yi Qing Luo came to the ancestors' tomb to retrieve the azure dew bracelet. He only met the 4 guardians face to face. Something seems to have happened. Let's go out and take a look. Yi Qing Luo heard the voices outside getting noisier and noisier as she suggested. Yi Qing Luo more or less understood the meaning behind their words. It seemed like someone had brought something in. She was the only descendant of the Yi family who had entered the tomb of the Yi family ancestor today. He was naturally referring to her. She did not want to bring trouble to the ancestor's tomb because of her. The man, the beast, and the 2 spirits immediately walked out of the tomb. In front of him, there were 4 white-browed old men with only their upper bodies. They were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws as they chased something. By the time Yi Qing Luo walked out, the gazes of the 4 spiritual bodies landed on her at the same time. No, that's not right. Not on her body. Instead, she was staring at something that was rapidly flying towards her, just as that thing was about to crash onto Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo suddenly flipped her palm. He raised his hand and grabbed the item in his palm. The thing that she touched was extremely cold. At this moment, it was struggling in her palm, as though it was trying to break free from her grip and drill out. Chapter 1871. One of the protectors saw Yi Qing Luo's face clearly. His expression congealed. "Why is it you again?" Yi Qing Luo smiled at the protectors. "Nice to meet you, grandfathers." The protectors' faces turned red and pretended to be fierce. "Who are your grandfathers?" "Stinky lass, don't even think of claiming to be related to us. Tell us honestly, did you bring that thing in?" Yi Qing Luo didn't reply. Old Mu rushed forward and complained. "Lass, why do you call those shameless, lazy things grandfathers when you see them? But call me Old Mu when you see me." This was not the main point. She was trying to claim to be related to them, so that these cold-faced but warm-hearted protectors would not pursue this matter, all right? Hearing Old Tomb's accusation, the ferocious-looking guards were overjoyed. "Really? She really didn't call you Grandpa?" Old Mu stared fiercely at those protectors who were smiling like blooming chrysanthemums and spat. "If she doesn't call me, then she won't. That means I have a close relationship with this lass." The 5 protectors suddenly started to fight with each other. Yi Qing Luo grabbed the thing in her hand, messy in the wind. It was just a title. Why did they have to fight so hard? Cough. Did this mean that they actually liked her pinching? That Yi Qing Luo saw that they were still fighting with each other and cleared her throat. "Grandfathers, don't be in a hurry to fight. Can you tell me what happened?" When the protectors heard that, they suddenly regained their senses and patted their heads as if they were suddenly enlightened. Right. The matter is not settled yet. The number 1 protector floated to Yi Qing Luo's side and pointed at her tightly clenched hand. Other than the descendants of the Yi family, no one else can enter the ancestral tomb. But this thing... It paused and frowned. I feel that this thing is looking for something in the tomb. Looking for something. These 4 words made Yi Qing Luo's mind suddenly clear. She quickly opened her palm, and indeed, the thing moving in her palm was the crystal ball which Yuming had passed to her, under the illumination of the luminous pearl. That crystal ball shone with a dazzling luster, dazzling to the eyes. The moment Yi Qing Luo opened her palm, the crystal ball, which had been moving incessantly, suddenly stopped. It lay quietly in Yi Qing Luo's palm. It made Yi Qing Luo's jade-like palm look even more fair, almost transparent. Damned girl, this is really yours. Guardian number 2 blew his beard and glared. He was so angry that he kept floating in the air. You are a descendant of the Yi clan. How could you betray the Yi clan? Betray? Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned. Wait, Grandpa Mu. What exactly is this crystal ball? The few guardians looked at each other in dismay, but after carefully staring at Yi Qing Luo for some time, they saw that Yi Qing Luo's expression indeed didn't look like she was pretending. You really don't know? Guardian 3 asked suspiciously. Yi Qing Luo nodded. She really did not know what this crystal ball was. At that time, Netherworld asked her to bring him into the tomb of the ancestors. She didn't notice anything strange in the crystal ball, so she didn't take it to heart. He didn't expect the crystal ball to be able to move on its own. Could it be that it was also a battle pet? This thing roamed everywhere in our ancestors' tomb. It had gone to every corner, and it even dared to attack us. It's absolutely searching for something in the ancestral tomb. It's trying to pry into the treasures in our ancestors' tomb. A small pearl, not only can it avoid our attacks, it can also turn around and attack us. It's absolutely not something simple. Asterisk. Chapter 1872. The more Yi Qing Luo listened, the more solemn her expression became. Her slender fingers pinched the crystal ball as she squinted her eyes slightly. A pair of long and narrow eyes flashed with a trace of biting cold light. Damn Yuming. He didn't tell her that this thing could act on its own and attack people or spiritual bodies. Thinking of what Yuming said, it will help me find what I want. Yi Qing Luo had an impulse to strangle him. Yu Ming had lived in the 21st century for too long. He carried all kinds of high-tech things, although this was a deal with Yu Ming. But the premise of the deal was that it must not affect the ancestral tomb. No matter what, this was her Yi Qing Luo's ancestor. If Yu Ming wanted to do anything to the ancestral tomb, the chill in Yi Qing Luo's eyes became more and more wanton. Her pink lips curled up slightly, tainted with evil. Grandfathers, don't worry, I will solve this thing. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's evil expression, the 5 guardians felt a chill down their spines. It seemed that their current descendant of the Yi family had some similarities with their ancestors' temperament. They had lived for thousands of years, even tens of thousands of years. Naturally, they could see that Yi Qing Luo and this crystal ball did not have much relationship, although it was Yi Qing Luo who brought this crystal ball into the ancestral tomb. But she said that she would solve it. They chose to believe this descendant of the Yi family. All right. Since the azure water artifact is in your hands, get lost quickly. There is nothing you want here. Old Mu looked at the way the other 4 guardians looked at Yi Qing Luo and suddenly felt an ominous premonition, so he immediately urged. Sure enough, the next moment, the 4 guardians had already floated their spiritual bodies and rushed towards Yi Qing Luo. The 4 spiritual bodies surrounded Yi Qing Luo's side as they kept asking about the Yi family's current situation. Yi Qing Luo didn't hide anything. He gave a concise and comprehensive account of what had happened the last time he came to the tomb and took away the azure dew bracelet. She said all these not because she wanted the guardians to avenge her or revive the Yi family, but these guardians were the guardians of the Yi family. They had the right to know all the facts. The expressions of the guardians gradually turned from excitement to gloomy. For the Yi family to become like this, They were extremely disappointed. After all, they had willingly guarded this ancestral tomb for tens of thousands of years. However, the Yi clan had turned into an infighting. For the sake of a so-called divine tool, they even dared to plot against the clan leader. It really made them feel very complicated. Fortunately, their descendant of the Yi clan had a chance to be reborn. Otherwise, they would not have the face to call themselves the guardians of the Yi clan. Seeing that he could not stop it, old Mu sighed helplessly. Let bygones be bygones. Now that the girl has her own new life, let her live her life in her own way. That will be enough. Old Tomb's words made the other guardians silent for a moment. Soon after, he sighed softly and said in a low voice, Old Mu is right. Since the descendant of the Yi family has died in that explosion, the little girl now is her own person. She can live her own life in her own way, and there is no need for her to live for the Yi family. Several pairs of loving gazes made Yi Qing Luo's heart feel warm. Sure enough, if she wanted to get the other party's heart, it was best to treat them with sincerity. The last time she came to the ancestral tomb, she only wanted to take away the azure dew bracelet. She had no intention to talk to these guardians. Today, she waited with sincerity. She then understood that these guardians were the ones who truly cared about the Yi family and her. Asterisk. Chapter 1873. Don't be moved to tears. We are a bunch of old fellows and won't fall for it. Old Mu stretched out his hand and patted heavily on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. You'd better leave the ancestral tomb with this crystal ball. Yi Qing Luo nodded. She wasn't sure what this crystal ball was. Carrying it on her was a hidden danger. Before Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth, the four guardians had already said in disgust, Yes, 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 leave quickly. Every time you come back, you have to take away the good stuff from the ancestral tomb. Don't come back next time. Guardian number 3, by the side, pinched Guardian number 1's hand and immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Don't listen to its nonsense. The reason why Yi family's ancestral tomb exists is to protect Yi family's inheritance. As long as you need it, you can come to the ancestral tomb anytime. However, if you want to take away the things that belong to the ancestors from the tomb, your heart must be as pure and clean as it is now, Protector number 4 reminded him. Clean? Pure? Could these two words really be used to describe her? Yi Qing Luo's mouth twitched. Under the encirclement of the 5 guardians, Yi Qing Luo was sent out of the inner circle. Little Nine and Old Man Song were completely and utterly ignored. At the entrance of the inner circle, Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something and looked at Old Mu. Old Mu, the last time I came, I promised to give you freedom if you are willing. I have stayed in the ancestral tomb for tens of thousands of years. Freedom and whatnot don't matter anymore. Old Mu waved his hand. I can't keep up with the changes of the outside world. I can't adapt to the place where you are born now. He paused and looked at the other 4 guardians. Ask them if they want to leave with you. You can bring them with you. The 4 guardians looked at each other in dismay. It seemed like they hadn't figured out what kind of riddle they were playing, but very quickly they reacted. All of them shook their heads and had no intention of leaving the ancestral tomb. Seeing their resolute attitude, Yi Qing Luo felt a little strange, but didn't say anything more. She remembered the last time. Old Mu longed for freedom. This time it would not be a problem for her to bring the old tomb away, or even bring the 5 spiritual bodies out of the ancestral tomb. However, none of them were willing to leave. She could only sigh to herself. It could only be said that it was impossible to guess the guardian's thoughts. Yi Qing Luo bade farewell to the 5 graveyard guardians as she carried Little Nine and led Old Man Song, whose shoulder was floating as she walked towards the center. Passing through the complicated array with ease, Yi Qing Luo was still in a dilemma about why the old tomb refused to leave with her. Old Man Song floated down from her shoulder and slowly floated in front of her. Silly girl, these old men, they made a deal with you before, and wanted to accompany you out of the ancestral tomb because they were worried that you would be harmed by the azure dew bracelet. He let out a heavy sigh. The existence of the azure dew bracelet, no matter what era it is, as long as it is known, it will definitely set off a reign of terror. Yi Qing Luo understood this point very well. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been afraid to use the teleportation secret technique and the thunderclap technique in front of others. He couldn't let anyone discover anything about the azure dew bracelet. Therefore, at that time when Old Mu made a deal with her, he actually wanted to stay by her side to protect her. The current patriarch of the Yi family? Then why? Yi Qing Luo had just spat out these 3 words when she suddenly thought of something and stopped her mouth. The lines on her face softened a little. Chapter 1874. Back then, he had chosen freedom because he wanted to protect her. She chose to stay in her ancestor's tomb because she already had enough people by her side to protect her. The guardian of the azure dew bracelet, Old Song. The lover who gave her the profound phoenix ring, Mo Xian. Therefore, they stayed in their ancestor's tomb with peace of mind and continued to protect the Yi family's inheritance. Those arrogant old men with cold faces but warm hearts. Don't worry, we'll meet again. Old Man Tsang couldn't help but let out a smile. His gentle gaze looked at Yi Qing Luo's tranquil face. Don't think too much. Let's go out first. Don't you still have to rush to the battle plane? Mentioning the battle planes, Yi Qing Luo's expression recovered, and as though she thought of something, her palm flipped and summoned the underworld mirror. There's no hurry to go to the battle dimension. With the protection of the netherworld, there's no need to worry about them for now. Although she said that, Yi Qing Luo still activated the underworld mirror to lock onto Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin's position. She hadn't even spent more than a day in the ancestral tomb. At this moment, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin had already rested well. He looked much more spirited. The 2 of them seemed to be communicating about something when Yan Xiaoyi suddenly stretched out her arms and wrapped them around Xiao Jin's neck. Xiao Jin was slightly startled, but he did not resist. The atmosphere was warm and sweet. Yi Qing Luo didn't continue watching. Taking advantage of the safety of the barrier, he would let the 2 of them be alone for a while. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Now, Yan Xiao had taken the initiative to attack. He should also take this opportunity to let Xiao Jin know his own heart. Old Man Song, help me take a look at what this thing is. Yi Qing Luo didn't keep the underworld mirror, but threw the crystal ball towards Old Man Song. You're worried that the netherworld will make use of this plane's inconceivable technology to break the ancestral tomb's array? Old Man Song saw through Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. I will not allow any accidents to happen. Yi Qing Luo didn't believe in Yuming, so naturally she would doubt the use of the crystal ball. If the crystal ball could follow or monitor everything she did in the ancestor's tomb, then the netherworld could break the formation of the ancestor's tomb according to the content it followed or monitored. Then what should he do? She was a member of the Yi family. She would never allow anyone to destroy the Yi family's ancestral tombs. Especially it was because of her. Old Man Song took the crystal ball and used his profound energy to examine it. But he didn't find anything strange about the crystal ball. However, the strangest thing was that there was nothing strange about it. One must know that the crystal ball previously had its own consciousness, quietly left Yi Qing Luo's body, and wandered around the ancestral tomb, and even attacked the spirit body. These were not things that an ordinary crystal ball could do. Yi Qing Luo's perceptive ability was extraordinary, but she couldn't sense when the crystal ball left the brocade box it was in. There was definitely something wrong with this thing. Yi Qing Luo controlled the underworld mirror and aimed it at the crystal ball. After injecting her profound energy into the underworld mirror, Yi Qing Luo tried to search for the information in the crystal ball. Yi Qing Luo wasn't familiar with the operation of the underworld mirror. She was just giving it a try. He wanted to use the method of locking onto Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin to derive some information from the crystal ball. Unexpectedly, he actually succeeded. Yi Qingluo's eyes lit up as she stared at the mirror. The internal structure of the crystal ball surfaced. She was shocked. Damn it. Xian was too smart, too powerful. Chapter 1875. On the mirror, the internal structure of the crystal ball made one tongue-tied. The densely packed electronic data made Yi Qingluo's eyes dazzled. Previously under the training of those old men in the Yi family, Yi Qingluo was considered as an all-round existence, but only towards the electronic stuff. She had no interest to learn and was not proficient in it. Not to mention, this was an intricate electrical appliance and electronic data, even if she had analyzed the internal structure of the crystal ball. To her, it was still a face of confusion. But the only thing she could be sure of was this crystal ball was indeed not simple. She tried to issue an order to the underworld mirror. Can you help me analyze the program instructions of these electronic data? On the mirror, the densely packed electronic data suddenly disappeared. Not long later, the mirror surface rippled again. A crystal ball appeared on the mirror surface. That crystal ball was the crystal ball in Old Man Song's hand. On the side, the preliminary analysis information was displayed. Tracking search bullet. After setting the tracking search target, it will automatically track the target. Once the target is found, it will automatically bring the target back and then explode. If the target is not found at the designated location, it will return to the person who set up the island and self-destruct. Yi Qingluo wanted to have a deeper understanding, but the pendant hanging around her neck suddenly shone with a strange ray of light. The profound energy in her body slowly dissipated. Lass, don't forget, your profound jade heart is not stable now. Old Man Song reminded. Based on your current ability, using the underworld mirror once will exhaust a huge amount of profound energy, and it will affect your profound jade heart. Yi Qingluo heard that and released her hand from the underworld mirror. With a flip of her palm, she kept the underworld mirror. Her slender fingers touched the pendant on her neck. This was specially found by Dmo Xian for her, to temporarily replace the tranquil pearl. Earlier, in order to stabilize her profound jade heart, he specially suppressed her profound qi, which was about to explode. Tracking search bullet. From the name, it should only be a tracking search item. It shouldn't have any tracking or monitoring function. The preliminary information showed that there was no problem. This also proved that what Yiming said to her wasn't all fake. He did want to use this crystal ball to find something he wanted in the tomb of his ancestors. After you recover your profound strength, you can use the nether mirror's memory of the crystal ball to search for the crystal ball's whereabouts. At the same time, you can also find out who the netherworld is working for, Old Man Song suggested. Yi Qingluo kept the crystal ball into the brocade box and once again walked towards the periphery. Yes, I also have the same intention. After leaving the ancestral tomb, this old man will continue to fall into a deep slumber. When we reach the battle dimension, this old man should wake up. Old Man Song glanced at the entrance of the tomb that they were about to reach. In the 21st century, although profound practitioners could use profound energy without any restrictions, they could not use it at all. However, his mental energy was greatly reduced. He summoned his battle pets and communicated with the spirit. All of these required extremely strong mental strength. Yi Qingluo's mental power was not enough to maintain the connection with Old Man Song after leaving the ancestral tomb. Yes, with Xian around, don't worry. While speaking, Yi Qingluo had already walked out of the ancestral tomb. Yi Qingluo had just stepped out of the cemetery. A warm body had already covered Yi Qingluo's body. The man's boiling temperature dispelled the gloomy coldness that Yi Qingluo brought out from the cemetery. The elegant sandalwood fragrance made Yi Qingluo couldn't help but bury her head in his arms, taking a deep breath. Chapter 1876. Mo Xian's chest was boiling hot, but it couldn't conceal the coldness of his robe. Apparently, ever since she entered the ancestor's tomb, Mo Xian had been waiting outside for her return. Mo Xian held her hand and kissed it gently. Why do you feel so cold all over? Is the yin qi inside very strong? Yi Qing Luo's little face rubbed against his chest. Her body's scent filled up her heart and warmed it up. Her arms circled around his firm waist as her voice was soft. With Xian around, I don't feel cold at all. The young lady took the initiative to get close to him, and Mo Xian couldn't help but use his hands to encircle her tightly in his arms. His slender, long fingers brushed past her hair as his voice was gentle and pampering. All right, let's go to Yu Ming's place first. Use the warm water to take a bath and rest for a night. Tomorrow we'll head over to the battle plain. Amen. Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes lazily. Mo Xian carried her up by her waist. Yi Qing Luo immediately found a comfortable position in his arms. Yu Ming, who was called out by the side, had already yawned numerous times as his eyes were slightly red. Seeing Mo Xian carrying Yi Qing Luo walking towards him, he wanted to ask about the crystal ball, but when he saw Mo Xian's frosty face, he kept his mouth shut. All right, in this great Buddha's eyes, nothing could be compared to Yi Qing Luo's health and safety. Yu Ming adjusted his state of mind. Since Yi Qing Luo had already walked out of the ancestor's tomb safely, looking at her look, she seemed extremely relaxed. She should have gotten the item, so there was no hurry for this moment. Thinking till here, Yu Ming bowed slightly as he said calmly, "Then please follow me to my place to rest first." Yi Qing Luo was in a daze when she felt her body turning cold. The man's warm palm brushed past her skin, teasing her senses. Yi Qing Luo mumbled a few words as she raised her hand to push away the hand that was playing tricks on her body as she wanted to turn over and continue to sleep. But her body moved. Her clothes slid down from her body. Her skin instantly felt itchy. She abruptly opened her eyes to discover that she was leaning against the man's thick embrace. Half of her robe had already been untied, revealing half of her fragrant shoulder and a white pocket. Xian! Yi Qing Luo caught hold of the hand that was still untying her pocket. Her face flushed red. What are you doing? I'll let you take a bath. Mo Xian brushed her hand away and took off her clothes. Yi Qing Luo then noticed that the surroundings were filled with hot air. I am already awake. I can wash myself. Yi Qing Luo's face was flushed red as she pulled a towel over to cover her body and retreated from Mo Xian's embrace. Previously at the hot spring, she had asked Mo Xian to serve her bath. Guyu's heart was almost attacked by fire. This evildoer was too alluring. She didn't want to enjoy the same feeling a second time. He was determined to bathe himself. How could Mo Xian let her escape? Her shimmering peach blossom eyes looked extremely seductive in the mist. His thin lips curved upwards as his mellow wine voice was extremely intoxicating. Lil Luo, it's not the first time we've met each other honestly, and it's not the first time I've served you in the bath. What's there to be shy about? His hand exerted a little force. Yi Qing Luo fell into his boiling hot embrace. Once again, Yi Qing Luo instantly blushed, and under his gaze, she felt her entire body heating up unknowingly. Between the two of them, there was only a thin towel. She was extremely shy as she racked her brains to think of an excuse to reject him. Before she could think of anything, Mo Xian had already thought of a reason that she couldn't reject him no matter what. The grave's yin qi is too heavy, other than using hot water to wash. You have to disperse that yin qi, otherwise once it enters your body, it will affect your body. Asterisk. Chapter 1877. All right, he'd won. Yi Qing Luo resisted the redness on her face as she gritted her teeth. All right, disperse the cold air then, if you dare to take the chance to flirt with me. Don't blame me for sleeping with you in the bathroom. In order to show a more vicious and evil expression, she stared at Dmo Xian's misty face and added another sentence. And the kind of sleeping where you're hovering between life and death. Dmo Xian couldn't help but laugh. All right, I'll let you sleep however you want. Vicious and evil expression had no effect on Dmo Xian. On the contrary, it made Yi Qing Luo's face turn even redder. As a new human in the 21st century, she couldn't win against an ancient person and was even flirted with till her face turned red. What should she do? Waiting online urgent. Yi Qing Luo was still gritting her teeth when her body suddenly felt light as she was carried by Dmo Xian. The towel on her body slid down. The jade-like body of the moon, under the bright and dazzling bathroom lights, seemed to be plated with rays. Previously those injuries in the dark sacred region, under his meticulous recuperation, there wasn't a single scar at all. Every part of Yi Qing Luo's skin was giving off an intoxicating charm. Her beauty was in her bones. Her charm was seductive to the bone. Dmo Xian's scorching gaze deeply gazed at every inch of Yi Qing Luo's skin. Yi Qing Luo bit her lower lip as she shamefully shifted her gaze away. Under Dmo Xian's scorching gaze, she could clearly feel her body temperature rising continuously. Her entire body felt weak and powerless. Her peripheral vision glanced at Dmo Xian's eyes. It was instantly engulfed by the burning flame in his eyes. Her mind was empty. It was indeed not the first time they met each other, and it was indeed not the first time he looked at her from head to toe. But she still felt extremely bashful. When her body submerged into the warm bathtub, Yi Qing Luo then dared to shift her gaze. The bathtub was filled with bright rose petals, concealing the body under the water. It also made Yi Qing Luo less bashful. Her curly long eyelashes fluttered as she stared at the man with a flushed face. You said before only dispel the yin qi. Dmo Xian's hoarse voice was filled with a strong sense of affection. The mist was dense, and rose petals were fragrant. That peerless face of his became even more alluring. Her heart trembled fiercely. Ah Xian, hurry up and disperse the yin qi. Once you're done, then leave. What a torturous little devil. Why was he always flirting with her? Last time at the hot spring, she failed to retaliate and slept with him. He once again presented an opportunity to her. She would really be drowned in sleep. Yi Qing Luo suppressed the urge to turn into a wild beast. She was a woman. She had to be reserved. At the very least, he had to maintain his outward modesty. Otherwise, if she were to retaliate against a man, Dmo Xian would think that she was unsatisfied. Although she was indeed, Dmo Xian was flirting with her very much. No, full. The man's hand gently caressed her exquisite and beautiful face. The exquisite skin, the silky smooth touch made Dmo Xian's entire body tense up. He was a normal man. How could he be indifferent to the beauty of his beloved woman in his arms? The scorching heat in his eyes had already revealed the deepest thoughts in the depths of his heart. But, looking at the young lady's blushing face, he couldn't bear it any more. The petals in the pool were all overshadowed by Yi Qing Luo's bright and beautiful face. The slightly fluttering eyelashes, bit by bit, stirred his heart. Chapter 1878. His warm, thin lips landed on her forehead, which was scorched by the heat. The man's intimate touch made Yi Qing Luo's heart tremble slightly. She suddenly raised her eyes and met with a pair of peach blossom eyes which seemed to bear thousands of tender feelings in the world. The eyes were glistening, long and narrow with a demonic charm. In those eyes there was only her alone, as though in this world the only person he could see was her alone. Yi Qing Luo's blush grew deeper. She was so embarrassed that she didn't know what to say. Lil Luo, don't show this kind of expression. It will make me mistakenly think that you are. The man's deep voice lingered by her ear, inviting me. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks were flushed. Only in front of Dmo Xian would she reveal such a charming and enchanting look. His voice was extremely pleasant to the ears. Yi Qing Luo inexplicably thought of a sentence. This voice, even the ears are going to get pregnant from hearing it. She swung her fist and pounded on his chest. Following that, she turned her face to one side, not wanting Dmo Xian to tease her until she completely lost her rationality. Dmo Xian forcefully turned her head over. He forced her gaze to meet his. Yi Qing Luo shrank back slightly. The next moment, the man's breath had already spilled onto her face. The temperature was scorching, his breathing heavy. His lips were on hers. When their lips were on each other, they could only see each other. Evildoer. While she was muttering, Yi Qing Luo spat out 2 words. Following that, she couldn't be bothered about the so-called lady's modesty. This evildoer was thinking of ways to tease her. If she was still indifferent, then there must be something wrong with her brain. Yi Qing Luo suddenly stretched out her arms, wrapping it around his neck. The body, which was hidden in the water, suddenly exerted a little force. The man, who was still wearing a purple robe, was forcefully pressed into the bathtub. The man's black hair, which was scattered on his shoulders, was soaked in water. A purple robe, also in the water, was dyed like a poppy, mysterious and gorgeous color. Yi Qing Luo's naked body pressed on Dmo Xian. His wet hair fell on his cheeks. Yi Qing Luo's fair little hand had already hooked onto the knot of his collar as she gave a devilish and enchanting smile. Ah, Xian, see if I don't make you hover between life and death. The corners of Dmo Xian's lips curled up into a warm smile. I'll do as you wish. I'll cooperate fully. In the bathroom, water splashed and music overlapped. The silhouettes of people drifted about in the room. The next day, Yi Qing Luo said that she wasn't in a hurry to go to the battle plains, so she wasn't in a hurry to go. She asked Dmo Xian to set up a barrier and locked the array within the barrier. Following that, she and Dmo Xian changed into this era's clothing and brought Dmo Xian along as they started to tour this world which she grew up in. She told Dmo Xian all her secrets in full detail. For example, she had once lived in this era for a full 20 years. For example, how she crossed over to the Nirvana realm and became the new Yi Qing Luo. She did not hide anything or hold anything back. When Dmo Xian heard that, there were some doubts in his heart. If it was said that Yi Qing Luo's soul had swapped bodies, then the Nirvana realm's Yi Qing Luo had replaced her. That was when he saved her from the dark sacred region, when her soul was damaged. He and Ghost Doctor thought of all ways and means to help her stabilize her soul and restore her soul. Obviously, the soul and this body were extremely compatible. He totally didn't feel any presence of a reincarnated soul. But looking at Yi Qing Luo's serious and solemn tone, she apparently really treated him as the outsider who had replaced her. In this, there should be some secret which Yi Qing Luo herself didn't know about. Asterisk. Chapter 1879. Thinking back to what the array had said, the reason why Yi Qing Luo came to this plane from the soulless array. It was an expert who had spent over 100 years of cultivation to send her here. Obviously, that expert's motive was closely related to Yi Qing Luo's transmigration to the Nirvana realm. Netherworld, could it be related to this matter? What happened? Yi Qing Luo held onto Dmo Xian's arm as she indulged in the sight of him wearing a casual suit, yet still looking so handsome and peerless. Dmo Xian glanced sideways and smiled dotingly. It's nothing. No matter what complicated secrets were hidden behind this matter, Dmo Xian did not intend to expose her for the time being. According to what Yi Qing Luo said, Old Man Song had followed Yi Qing Luo to Nirvana realm from this era. How could Old Man Song not see that Yi Qing Luo's soul and flesh body were completely compatible? But now, Yi Qing Luo still thought that she had reincarnated in another person's body. That also meant that Old Man Song didn't intend to let Yi Qing Luo know about this matter. Based on Yi Qing Luo's strong character, let's put this matter aside for now. No matter if Yi Qing Luo was Yi Qing Luo or the Yi Qing Luo who had reincarnated. His little Luo, or was his little Luo, leading DMO Xian. He toured one round around the 21st century. The two returned to Netherworld's villa. The Netherworld was not in the villa. Yi Qing Luo thought of something and pulled DMO Xian back to the room. She flipped her palm and summoned the Nether Mirror. What? Worried about Xiao Jin and Xiao Yi? DMO Xian held her waist as the both of them leaned against the soft bed. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Yu Ming wants to leave this plane. He doesn't dare to lie to me. Then what do you want to investigate? DMO Xian lifted a lock of her silky hair and brought it to his lips. Yi Qing Luo curled her lips mysteriously. Injecting Xian energy, the surface of the mirror began to fluctuate. Soon after, a dazzling crystal ball appeared. You gave the crystal ball to Netherworld? DMO Xian knew what Yi Qing Luo wanted to do with just one look. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows with a smile that didn't look like a smile. If I don't give it to him, how would I know his secret? The Netherworld would never have thought of this. The Netherworld mirror, which he had once regarded as a treasure, would now become a pair of eyes that monitored him. At this moment, Netherworld was somewhere with the crystal ball. Not long after, the crystal ball was taken out of the brocade box. Through the crystal ball, the mirror began to display the surrounding environment. It looked like a laboratory filled with countless high-tech equipment. Yu Ming was sitting in front of a screen, his face full of respect and humility. After a while, the screen flickered with electric light. Suddenly, two people wearing black robes appeared, covering their entire bodies. From the body shape, Yi Qing Luo could tell that it was a man and a woman. When those two people appeared, the man she was using as a cushion suddenly stiffened. Yi Qing Luo keenly sensed the change in DMO Xian's emotions and turned her head to look at the man's dignified expression. Her lips curled into a sweet smile. Why? Do you know him? DMO Xian was silent for a moment. His thin lips moved slightly. I've met him once, a very strong opponent. Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened in curiosity. For DMO Xian to call it powerful, how terrifying would that be? No wonder DMO Xian's expression was so grave. Did the Netherworld listen to those people's orders? Yu Ming, what's wrong with you? Where's the Netherworld mirror? The woman's sinister laughter was extremely ear-piercing. Yu Ming's expression changed slightly. That's not important. Has the revered returned? An icy cold voice was heard from the screen. Pass the tracking search bomb to me. Asterisk. Chapter 1880. Yu Ming narrowed his eyes. Based on what? Based on the fact that you're merely an abandoned trash. Yu Han sneered coldly. Abandoned. These three words pierced Yu Ming's heart. His expression instantly turned as cold as ice, as though it was covered with thousands of frost. Revered One ordered me to this plane to handle matters. It's not the so-called abandonment. I'm the same as you. His voice, word by word, was extremely cold. Between his brows was tainted with an absolute cold storm. His scarlet red eyes seemed to be dyed with blood. This look made Yu Han and Yu couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. On the screen, the two men's sinister eyes revealed traces of fear. Perhaps it was the fear in Yu's eyes which made Yu Ming regain his senses. He restrained the expression in his eyes as his expression returned to normal. I want to personally hand over the tracking search bomb to Revered One. Yu Ming, don't be so shameless. Yu Han berated in a cold voice. Because of the fear she had towards Yu Ming earlier, she felt a little ashamed. Do you really think that Revered One sent you to that broken plane is to help Revered One to handle matters? Yu Han rushed in front of the screen. Under the black robe, half of her treacherous and eerie face was revealed. Let me tell you, you've been exiled. Because you're a monster, a different species. Monster, different species. Yu Ming's body stiffened slightly. He stood in front of the screen. His entire body was covered in flames, as though it had swept up a bloody storm. Yu Ming, don't! Don't listen to Yu Han's nonsense. Yu Nu hurriedly spoke. Her voice was gentle. He's jealous of you for being able to do tasks in such an interesting plane. As for the tracking bomb, I'll go inform Revered One. Wait for me for now. The lady's delicate voice was like a warm breeze brushing past Yu Ming's heart. No matter how much anger he had, at this moment it all disappeared. He gazed deeply at the lady on the screen as he nodded. Yu Han, who was standing by the side, seemed to want to say something, but her arm was grabbed tightly by Yu Nu. The both of them disappeared in front of the screen. Oh. On the other side, Yi Qing Luo stared at the image on the mirror as she clicked her tongue. That's the lady that Yu Ming likes. I don't know what she looks like, but I think Yu Ming's love should be one-sided. Everyone could see that. That woman and the other man on the screen, their relationship was definitely beyond that of friends. Hades was probably the only one who hadn't figured it out. Or could it be that he had already seen through her, but she was just pretending to be dumb to give herself space to fantasize? Yi Qing Luo changed her position in DMO Xian's arms as she kept some profound energy, but how their feelings are has nothing to do with us. She raised her head, and from this angle, she looked at DMO Xian's face. Ah, Xian, who do you think those two people and the venerable one they mentioned are? She reached out and stroked his cheek with her slender fingers. DMO Xian's eyes were tranquil. His expression was no longer as solemn as before, but was indifferent, as though it was of no importance. I don't know. These two people are from the upper realm. The venerable that they are talking about should also be from the upper realm. His light and indifferent tone revealed that DMO Xian had no interest in those few people. Yi Qing Luo brushed the black hair on his shoulder, as she agreed. Amen. To be able to make you feel that they are strong opponents. They are definitely not from Nirvana realm. DMO Xian stretched out his hand as he grabbed her little hand. No matter what their identity is, as long as their motive is you, even if they are from the upper realm, I will still go against the heavens for you. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles as her arms circled around his neck. Asterisk. Chapter 1881. I'm just a mortal. They are from the upper realm. How could their target be me? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. From what I see, their target should be the Yi family's ancestors' belongings, for example, the azure dew bracelet. She stretched out her hand and waved it in front of DMO Xian. The cherry blossom pattern around the wrist of the fair lotus root was extremely eye-catching. DMO Xian's fingers caressed the lifelike pattern. It's also possible. Old Man Song has already concealed all the presence of the azure dew bracelet. No matter how that so-called venerable searches, he will not detect that the azure dew bracelet is on me. Yi Qing Luo stretched her waist, just as she wanted to change her position and lie in his arms. The Ming mirror suddenly flashed. It reminded her that there was movement in the crystal ball. Yi Qing Luo immediately injected her profound energy and locked onto the crystal ball. At this moment, Yu Ming had already placed the crystal ball on the screen. But on the other side of the screen, there was no sign of that so-called venerable. It was still the same man and woman. The venerable wants us to ask you, have you tracked the thing that the venerable needs? Yu Ming's evil voice rang from the screen. Yu Ming stared at Yu Nu for a moment. His finger touched the search flick. The search flick suddenly clasped tightly on the screen. Immediately, a set of precise electronic data appeared on the screen. After a while, a robotic voice came from the screen. The tracking result shows that there is no reliable information found. Immediately, the people on both sides of the screen were stunned. Immediately, for pairs of eyes met, the expressions on their faces were all astonished. No reliable information found? Does it mean? Nothing was found. Yu Nu's voice revealed some fear. Yu Ming's fingers quickly swiped on the precise data. His brows knitted tightly. Impossible! As long as that thing is in the Yi family's graveyard, it will definitely be found. Just as his voice fell, his sliding fingers paused. Don't tell me. That thing is not in the Yi family's graveyard. Other than the Yi family's ancestor's grave. Where else can that thing be placed? Yu Lung snorted coldly. I think you obviously want to take that thing for yourself. To betray the venerable. Childish. Yu Ming glanced at Yu Han with disdain. He didn't even bother to explain to her. Yu Han flew into a rage. Just as he was about to speak, Yu Nu had already pressed down his raised hand. After that, he looked at Yu Ming and said solemnly, Yu Ming, you can't joke about this. Investigate this thoroughly. The tracking results show that there is nothing in the target range. The mechanical voice sounded again from the screen. Yu Ming's finger slid down from the screen. You know my character, you knew. I don't joke around. Ghost Girl's eyes turned cold as she looked at Yu Han beside her. She seemed to be hesitating about something. After a while, she said, I will tell the Venerable One the truth about this. As he spoke, he cut off the connection with the screen. Bang! The crystal ball exploded on the screen. It didn't matter if the search missile could find the target or not. After the command was given, they would self-detonate. Yu Ming's body swayed slightly and he fell heavily to the ground. His face was also filled with disbelief and astonishment. On the other side, in the villa, the image on the mirror suddenly turned black following the explosion of the crystal ball. Yi Qing Luo kept the mirror and looked at DMO Xian with her charming eyes. Ah, Xian, what do you think they are looking for? Now it could basically be concluded. The target of the search bomb wasn't the Azure Dew bracelet. Otherwise, the search bomb would have searched for her at the first instance. Asterisk. Chapter 1882. DMO Xian lowered his eyes and gazed at the beautiful face of the young lady in his arms. His fingers caressed her face lightly. Something related to your Yi family. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. It is said that the ancestors of the Yi family owned many good things, and any one of them made those old men excited. But I have no interest in those things. In other words, she couldn't figure out what Netherworld was searching for in the graveyard. It doesn't matter what it is. DMO Xian carried her up. You've already gotten the Azure Aqua Threads. That bunch of people no longer have the chance to enter the ancestral tomb. Yi Qing Luo took the opportunity to raise her hand and put it around his neck, hanging in his arms. That's true, no matter what they want from my Yi family, they won't have this chance. So, don't let those unimportant things occupy your heart. DMO Xian carried her all the way to the spacious French window. As far as the eye could see, the sky was filled with stars, and the scenery was pleasant. He put her down. From behind, he wrapped his arms around Yi Qing Luo's slender waist. The two of them looked out of the French windows at the bustling scene of this era. DMO Xian's head rested on her shoulder. The atmosphere between the two of them was comfortable and sweet. Now, you can only think of me in your heart. The man's low and hoarse voice sounded sentimental. She loved the sound of his voice. In the Nirvana realm, both of them had too many things to settle and do. There weren't many opportunities for them to be alone. This was a rare opportunity for them to be alone, so they treasured it. There was no imperial palace, no devil class, no the world group, etc. to interfere. Only the two of them quietly snuggled up to each other. Does Xian like this plane? Yi Qing Luo's little hand played with those slender fingers that were placed across her waist. DMO Xian's thin lips curled up slightly as a scorching breath sprayed onto her skin. I like it. His voice was as deep as fine wine. It is this magical place that nurtured such an outstanding little Luoer. I like it here, like the place where little Luoer grew up. Yi Qing Luo's heart seemed to be encircled by a warm current and also seemed to be soaked in sweet honey. She turned around and lifted her eyes to look at DMO Xian's face. A sweet smile bloomed on her lips. This man was getting better and better at flirting with her. As for her, he would always flirt with her until she was covered in pink bubbles. She was unable to resist his seduction. She was unable to resist his warmth. The young girl's cheeks blushed as she glanced around with her enchanting eyes. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely alluring. Dmo Xian's gaze darkened as a trace of suppressed emotion surfaced. His slender fingers grasped her chin, and he lowered his head to kiss her lips. Yes, he liked this plane. This plane had made his little Luoer strong, stubborn, and unyielding. It also allowed his little Luo to learn all the ways of survival. If they were in the Nirvana realm, it was impossible to give birth to such a dazzling woman. He should thank that force which brought Yi Qing Luo to Nirvana realm. It was because of this energy that brought Yi Qing Luo to the Nirvana realm. Only then would he be able to meet his destined person. The next day, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian released the array eye of the enchantment. The face, which was covered in black fog in the devouring array, revealed an extremely aggrieved expression. Yi Qing Luo pretended not to see it as she turned her head to look at the silent Yu Ming, who was sitting on the sofa. Have you decided to follow us back to the Nirvana realm? Ever since Yu Ming returned yesterday, he had been sitting on the sofa in a daze. Chapter 1883. It could be seen that yesterday's incident had dealt a huge blow to him, not knowing if it was because the search bomb didn't manage to find what he wanted to search for, which caused him to suffer a huge blow, or was it when he conversed with the cold ghost maiden's attitude towards him, which made him suffer a huge blow. Yi Qing Luo only knew. The current Yu Ming was shrouded in a layer of low pressure. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Yu Ming calmly raised his eyelids. Amen. We're going to the battle plane now. Yi Qing Luo looked at the greenish-black color under Yu Ming's eyes as she faintly sighed. If we can decode the God Array, I will abide by my promise and bring you back to Nirvana realm. Yes. It was another calm word. Leaving this word, Yu Ming lowered his head once again. Apparently, he had no intention to chat with Yi Qing Luo any further. Yi Qing Luo's heart was on the two people in the battle plane. She wondered if these 2 days of being alone together, did it improve the relationship between those two people? Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo pulled Dmo Xian along as they followed the devouring array eye and left the villa. Battle plane. Inside the defensive barrier, Yan Xiao leaned into Qiao Jin's arms as that exquisite face appeared slightly pale. Qiao Jin looked at the 6 empty water bags by the side as his brows creased slightly. This protective shield had indeed protected them from the attacks of those monsters for the past 2 days. But if they continued to hide in the defensive barrier, even if they weren't killed by the monsters, they would starve to death and die of thirst in the defensive barrier. They should be glad that Yi Qing Luo had always emphasized that no matter where they were, their interspatial pockets must be filled with at least 5 bags of water and sufficient rations for 5 days. It was to prevent any accidents from happening. He and Yan Xiao only had a total of 10 bags of water. Now the water and rations on them could at most sustain them for another 2 days. Moreover, Yan Xiaoyi's body was apparently a little strange. But no matter how he questioned, Yan Xiao didn't relent. Instead, every single time, she would use extremely hot and bold courtship words to change the topic. Slut Jean. The lady in his arms suddenly opened her mouth softly. Qiao Jin immediately lowered his eyes as he looked at her anxiously. Are you hungry? Eat some dry rations first. When we leave this place, I'll take you to eat something delicious. Yan Xiao shook her head. Her slightly pale and exquisite face no longer had its usual loveliness. Instead, it had a lovely and moving look that made one feel pity for her. She wrapped her arms around his waist. I'm not hungry. I just want to talk to you. Okay, go ahead. Qiao Jin tightened his grip around her waist. His eyes filled with love. He couldn't restrain himself from caressing her pale face. The coldness caused his fingertips to tremble. Yan Shao leaned on his chest, and the corners of her mouth raised into a beautiful arc. Slut Jean, it's already been 2 days. Do you think we can really get out? Yes, definitely, Xiao Jin said without hesitation. I said it before, we will all leave this place alive. But I feel that I can't hold on much longer. Yan Shao laughed softly. What nonsense are you spouting? Xiao Jin's tone sank as he reprimanded in a low voice. Don't say such depressing words. We can all get out of here alive. They will be here very soon, as long as they come. Mentioning they, Xiao Jin's expression turned slightly gloomy. Yan Shao thought that Xiao Jin was talking about Yi Qing Luo and the rest. She rubbed her little face against his chest and raised her head. Her spirited and beautiful eyes stared deeply into his face. Slut Jean, in order to give me a belief that will keep me going, why don't you tell me your answer now, okay? Asterisk. Chapter 1884. The woman's soft voice carried a hint of coquettishness. Like a feather, it tickled Xiao Jin's heart bit by bit. The arms around the woman's waist tightened slightly. Xiao Jin hid the deep meaning in his eyes, avoided Yan Xiaoyi's hopeful gaze, and said calmly, When we leave here alive, I will tell you my answer. Yan Xiaoyi's delicate face revealed a look of displeasure. She pouted her slightly pale lips and glared at him angrily. You only know how to fool me with these words. I am a woman, and I have already boldly expressed my feelings to you. You are a man, and you are still bashful, and you only know how to drag me. As she spoke, she let out a soft snort and slammed her head into his chest. Xiao Jin's warm and thick palm immediately touched her forehead. He sighed heavily. Don't hurt yourself. Anyway, you won't feel heartache. Yan Shao let out another humph. When she buried her head in his arms, Yan Xiaoyi's bright and beautiful eyes gradually lost their light. There was an unconcealable pain in her eyes. Yan Shao understood Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin's not answering at this time, and it happened to answer Yan Shao. Even if they really got out alive, Xiao Jin's answer would only be not liking her. Xiao Jin didn't like her. He didn't answer just to let her have a glimmer of hope, so that she could hold on and live. Yan Shao closed her eyes slightly and held back the tears that were about to fall from her eyes. He would never know. Even if they left this damned place full of monsters alive, how would she get along with Xiao Jin in the days to come? Love, but not get it. She had to pretend to let it go and call him brother. Living like this was the true cruelty of it all. Xiao Jin tightened his arms, and his eyes stared deeply at the woman in his arms. There was a complicated storm in his eyes. He could feel the low pressure of the woman in his arms. He wanted to comfort her, but he knew that he was already qualified. Yan Shao liked him. He was very happy and excited. The happiest thing in the world was that the woman he loved deeply also loved him. But at the moment when the golden eyes were exposed, he and Yan Shao had completely no longer had any possibility. Yan Shao Yi's current liking for him might just be liking. This kind of love would only happen a few years after he left. It would also dissipate with the passage of time. He couldn't because of his love for Yan Shao Yi. It would delay Yan Shao Yi's future. The pain now was for a better future for Shao Yi. Xiao Jin suppressed his desire to comfort Yan Shao Yi. His heart was filled with feelings for Yan Shao Yi as he quietly hugged her just like that. The only thing he could do now was to hug her before he left. At this moment, the monsters that were fighting outside suddenly went berserk. The two people behind the protective shield also opened their eyes due to the monsters' rampage. The thousands of wild monsters in empty space were like a tide of beasts surging in a single direction. This scene shocked the two people sitting inside the barrier. What's going on? Yan Shao looked at those monsters in shock. The direction they were rushing towards was densely packed, and she really couldn't see where they were rushing towards. Qiao Jin shook his head, his expression solemn. Those thousands of wild beasts were rushing towards a certain direction. Not long after, suddenly, a dazzling golden light spread across the entire void. Wherever the golden light went, the beasts let out sharp and painful howls. In an instant, blood and flesh splattered. Chapter 1885. Qiao Jin's expression changed. His eyes stared intently at that golden light as his expression slowly turned cold. Yan Xiao, he stuck her head out from his arms. Slut Jin, what is that? This golden light was extremely familiar. Just 2 days ago, she had seen this powerful force on Qiao Jin's body. The monsters that were killed by this golden light were like a pile of dead meat, unable to regenerate. In the huge battle plain, just at this moment, it turned into a dead silence. Yan Xiao stared at the sky full of blood and flesh as it splattered downwards, as her expression turned even paler. Even if she was used to killing, seeing this kind of blood and flesh rain, she would feel so disgusted that she couldn't bear it. But more than that, she was filled with shock. She had fought with these monsters before. Naturally, she knew how strong these monsters' life force was. Even if she borrowed the black sickle blade's energy to battle, she wasn't able to annihilate 10 monsters at one go. But this golden light, it was able to annihilate thousands and thousands of monsters in an instant, and made them unable to regenerate. How heaven-defying was this? How strong was this energy? Yan Xiao was certain that this was absolutely not the energy released by Yiqing Luo. Her little hand nervously grabbed Qiao Jin's clothes, as her eyes stared at the direction where the golden light was released. After some time, she didn't get any response from Qiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi's heart trembled slightly as she raised her eyes and looked at the man beside her. She saw Qiao Jin's steely green and gloomy, as his eyes stared coldly in front. Perhaps the surrounding golden light was too dazzling. Yan Xiao and Qiao Jin's eyes faintly sparkled with a sliver of golden light. On a closer look, it was already pitch black. Slut Jin. Yan Xiao gently tugged Qiao Jin's sleeve. Qiao Jin then reacted, as the expression on his face suddenly turned gentler. No matter, the people who saved us are here. But his expression wasn't the least bit joyful. Yan Xiao seemed to have realized something as she gripped his sleeve tightly. Who are they? Qiao Jin didn't reply. His gaze had already regained its previous calmness, as his pitch-black eyes were fixated on the front. But after a moment, the golden light which covered the entire empty space slowly dispersed. Everything in the surroundings returned to its previous darkness. Yan Xiao only felt the hairs on her body stand up, her body tensed up, and an indescribable fear surged up her heart. She couldn't explain where this feeling came from. He only knew that the air pressure around him was gradually decreasing. The air gradually became cold. Even breathing was difficult. Yan Xiao instinctively leaned into Qiao Jin's embrace. At the same time, Yan Xiao saw from afar 3 figures were approaching at high speed. That figure was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing outside the barrier. There were 2 men and 1 woman. The man was about 23 or 24 years old, while the woman was about 17 or 18 years old. All of them were handsome and beautiful. What attracted Yan Xiao's attention the most was the eyes of these 3 people. One of their pupils was golden, while the other was black. The moment the 3 of them approached, even through the barrier, Yan Xiao could feel the cold, killing intent from their bodies. You guys are finally here, Qiao Jin said calmly as he looked at the 3 of them. The woman standing in the middle furrowed her brows, unable to conceal the disdain in her eyes. Why? Doesn't it mean that you can survive without relying on the power of your family? How long has it been? And you can't hold on anymore. She sneered and looked around. This kind of lousy plane can also make you so miserable. 5th brother, we haven't seen each other for so many years. you've become more and more useless. Asterisk. Chapter 1886. Fifth brother? Yen Xiao Yi was startled when she heard the way the lady addressed Xiao Jin. These people were Xiao Jin's relatives, but looking at the atmosphere between them, there was no trace of kinship at all. Yen Xiao Yi thought of her own situation in the Yen family. Could it be that Xiao Jin did not get along well with his relatives? So, for so many years, she had never seen Xiao Jin's relatives come to the Heavenly Academy and had never heard Xiao Jin mention about his family and relatives. Feng Yan. A man behind her reprimanded in a low voice. The lady seemed to be startled and immediately kept quiet. That man's face darkened as he stared at Xiao Jin. Come out quickly. Xiao Jin's expression was still calm as his voice revealed some coldness. I can't get out. You. The man's anger rose, and his eyes were filled with anger. Even such a place can trap you. Our Huangfu family's face has been thrown away by you. The man's words made Xiao Jin's eyes reveal a trace of ridicule. Since you feel that I'm a disgrace, why did you specially rush over? The man's face was gloomy as he gritted his teeth and suppressed his anger. You think I wanted to come? I feel disgusted just by looking at you. Big brother. The slightly elegant man at the side frowned and said, We specially rushed over to Nirvana realm not to argue with fifth brother. The man who was addressed as Big Brother was the eldest young master of Huangfu family, Huangfu Dongyu, and the slightly elegant man was Huangfu family's third young master, Huangfu Qifei. The only woman was Huangfu family's fourth young miss, Huangfu Fengyan. Huangfu Dongyu snorted coldly as he looked at Xiao Jin with a gaze full of disgust. If it wasn't for the fact that you used Huangfu family's power and was found out by the 5 imperial elders, who specially ordered us to bring you back to Huangfu family, do you think I would rush over? Big brother, why bother talking to him with all this nonsense? Huangfu Fengyan's pair of demonic eyes glanced at Xiao Jin indifferently. That time when you left Huangfu family, you were so decisive and said that you would never inherit Huangfu family. Now, you still can't get rid of the temptation of power and want to return to Huangfu family and occupy everything of Huangfu family. At this point, she sneered disdainfully, in the end, you're just relying on the fact that you're the heir recognized by ancestor Huangfu to act recklessly. She paused for a moment. Her eyes, one gold and one black, stared fixedly at the youth inside the protective shield. Her red lips curled into a mocking smile. The son of a B*TH is the son of a B*TH. Even if you're the heir, it doesn't change the fact that you're the son of a B*TH. You're a B*TCH to the core. Word by word, the harsh and sharp words pierced into Xiao Jin's heart. Xiao Jin's pupils constricted continuously. His calm face could no longer be restrained and became livid and gloomy. It seemed like in the next instant he would break through the protective barrier and tear apart Huangfu Fengyan's mouth. Yen Xiao Yi, who was nestled in his embrace, knew very well why Xiao Jin's mood had changed so much. Because Huangfu Fengyan had said the word slut son. She could feel the man's body trembling. Yen Xiao Yi's heart instantly ached. She raised her pale face and glared at Huangfu Fengyan, saying sternly, as a bystander, I instead feel that you're the B*TCH. Only the son of a B*TCH would raise a B*TCH, like you, who keeps on being a B*TCH. Yen Xiao Yi's voice rang out. Huangfu Fengyan's exquisite face instantly darkened as her sharp gaze glanced at Yen Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin immediately tightened his arms and pulled Yen Xiao Yi behind him, blocking in front of her. Chapter 1887. Lowly woman? Ha! As if you're not a woman? Yen Xiao Yi could not bear to see Huangfu Fengyan provoking Xiao Jin's face. She laughed coldly and continued, Right, how can a person like you, whose mouth is filled with filthy thoughts, be a woman? Huangfu Fengyan had never suffered such insults before. Her expression instantly darkened and turned malevolent. She raised her hand, and a golden light flashed past her palm. With a bang, she struck a palm towards the direction of the barrier, completely disregarding it. At this moment, Yan Xiaoyi was hiding behind Xiao Jin. If this palm landed, the one heavily injured would definitely be Xiao Jin. Slut Jin! Yan Xiaoyi cried out in panic, hugging his waist with both hands, wanting to forcefully change direction with him. But her body was pressed to the ground by Xiao Jin's strength, unable to move. Boom, boom, boom. That golden light smashed onto the barrier. The golden light flickered, emitting a deafening explosion. However, in the next instant, that golden light was reflected back. Huangfu Fengyan simply did not expect that this barrier had the ability to reflect. She was unable to react for a moment. Fortunately, Huangfu Dongyu reached out to pull Huangfu Fengyan in time. Only then did he barely prevent the tragedy of Huangfu Fengyan being injured by his own palm wind. But Huangfu Fengyan's shoulder was still grazed by the golden light, and fresh red blood seeped out. The expression on her face instantly turned ashen. Her eyes shot out an extremely sharp cold light as she glared fiercely at the two people behind the barrier. Lowly woman, you dare to injure me? Huangfu Fengyan gritted her teeth, her expression savage. Before Yan Xiaoyi could speak, she was already blocked by Xiao Jin behind her. Xiao Jin's expression was cold. Huangfu Fengyan, watch your mouth. Huangfu Fengyan's hand that was covering the wound on her shoulder paused. Hearing his words, she could not help but laugh. Looks like fifth brother cares quite a lot about this lowly woman, to be so protective of her. Why, this is the woman you fancy? No. Xiao Jin's voice was piercingly cold. She's my classmate. Huangfu Fengyan swept a nasty look at Yan Xiaoyi. Is that so? The way she looks at you is filled with love. That doesn't mean I like her. Xiao Jin's tone became heavier, as if he was extremely impatient. You didn't come here to denounce me for liking that woman, did you? Indeed not. Huangfu Fengyan looked at the lady behind Xiao Jin. The bright light in her eyes suddenly dimmed after Xiao Jin's words, and her mood became indescribably happy. Even the wound on his shoulder didn't seem to hurt anymore. What she loved the most in her life was to see lovers who couldn't be together in the end. Just like now, when Yan Xiaoyi heard Xiao Jin's words, her face turned paler by several degrees. She was just his classmate. She loved him, but it didn't mean that he would love her back. Although from the start, she already knew that Xiao Jin would give her such an answer. But when he really heard the answer, her heart was still aching uncontrollably. It was her who had sunk into the beautiful dream of the past 2 days. She thought that Xiao Jin actually loved her too. It was just that he was so full of himself that he would eventually wake up from his dream. She pursed her red lips and suddenly felt that her actions just now were extremely ridiculous. She was just his classmate. What right did she have to reprimand his loved ones? Yan Xiaoyi lowered her eyes. Her gaze seemed to have lost all its luster, and she didn't speak again. Huangfu Dongyu's face darkened, and he had already lost his patience. Enough! Don't waste time. We can't stay in the lower realm for too long. Asterisk. Chapter 1888. Huangfu Qifei looked at Xiao Jin and frowned. Xiao Jin, come out. Follow us back to the Huangfu family to accept punishment. Xiao Jin's expression once again regained its previous calmness. He curled his thin lips in a smile that wasn't a smile, smiling somewhat sinisterly. You saw it too. We can't get out of this thing. You guys can't enter either. Huangfu Trio's expression instantly changed. They were naturally clear of Huangfu Fengyan's ability. Huangfu Fengyan's palm just now used at least 50% of her profound strength. It was all reflected back by this protective barrier. Huangfu Fengyan narrowed her eyes, staring at the protective barrier, and said in a cold voice, You don't want to return to the Huangfu family, so you intentionally shut yourself in here? seemingly finding an excuse. Huangfu Qifei's elegant and handsome face tightly furrowed, echoing Huangfu Fingyan's words. Fifth brother, if you really don't wish to return to the Huangfu family, then you should fulfill your promise back then. Since you've already used the Huangfu family strength, then no matter how you hide now, you must return to the Huangfu family. Our fifth brother completely looks down on the Huangfu family. Huangfu Dongyu said eccentrically, since that's the case, will now, before he finished speaking. Suddenly, within the battle plane, a vast and terrifying energy surged over like a torrential flood, as if the energy that was imprisoned and suppressed was suddenly released. That powerful energy caused everyone present to reveal a horrified expression. Can't come out? This old man wants to see how this thing can't come out, can't enter. A deep voice, vigorous and powerful. Immediately after, a figure, like a ghost, appeared in front of the protective barrier. Yen Xiao Yi didn't even have time to see that person's appearance clearly. Then she heard an earth-shattering sound. Rumble! Her body was tightly hugged by Qiao Jin. Her head was forcefully pressed into Qiao Jin's embrace. Yen Xiao Yi was just about to struggle when she suddenly felt something heavily smashing down on her. Qiao Jin's breathing, from time to time, became heavier by the side of her ear. She hurriedly opened her eyes, raising her beautiful eyes, only to see that the protective barrier around the two of them had unknowingly shattered. It was also unknown what material the fragments of the protective barrier were made of. The fragments were sharp and heavy, crashing onto Qiao Jin's body. Yen Xiao Yi could even hear the sound of the heavy object crashing onto flesh. Slut Jin. Yen Xiao Yi's voice trembled as she tried to push Qiao Jin away. But how could her strength compare to Qiao Jin? Elder Jin Huang. The respectful voices of Huangfu and the other two rang out. The fragments of the protective shield had already fallen to the ground. Qiao Jinkai let go of Yen Xiao Yi, turned around, and looked in the direction of the voice. He cupped his fists and bowed in that direction. Elder Jin. Yen Xiao Yi stood behind Qiao Jin. She could clearly see an old man dressed in a golden robe with a golden dragon embroidered on his waist. He looked extremely respectable. Emperor Jin slowly turned around. He was about 56 or 57 years old and looked very energetic. His eyes were filled with a dignified light. Just by staring at Qiao Jin quietly, it gave people a tremendous pressure. "It's really not easy to find you," the Metal Emperor said coldly. He did not show any anger. Qiao Jin looked at the Metal Emperor calmly, the corners of his lips twitching with a faint smile. "Because I don't want to be discovered by you." The Metal Emperor swept his gaze around, finally fixing his gaze on Yen Xiao Yi, who was behind Qiao Jin. His sharp eyes lit up. "For a woman, you are willing to risk being discovered by us and use the power of the Huangfu family to protect her." Asterisk. Chapter 1889. Qiao Jin pursed his lips and pretended not to care. "It has nothing to do with her. I just want to live." Elder Jin smiled meaningfully. He looked at Qiao Jin as if he was looking at a chess piece in his hands. "You are the heir of the Huangfu family. You must return with me." Qiao Jin's calm expression changed. A hint of resistance flashed in his eyes. Elder Jin's eyes glimmered as he took in the expression on Qiao Jin's face. He suddenly grinned, his smile somewhat cruel. "Qiao Jin, as the chosen successor of the Huangfu family, you should settle down after running away for so many years. Even if you aren't willing to become the successor, but you still have to think of your pitiful mother. If you insist on running away from the Huangfu family and disturb ancestor Huangfu, you should be very clear on how the Huangfu family will treat your pitiful mother." He mentioned his mother. Qiao Jin's expression turned livid. His dark eyes flashed with an extremely cold light, and his pupils faintly flashed with gold light. "Your poor mother can survive until now only because of your identity as the heir. But if you insist on resisting the identity of the heir, You will no longer have the ability to protect your poor mother." Elder Jean chuckled. His voice was bone-chilling. Every word was like a knife stabbing into Qiao Jin's heart. His meaning was clear. After being willful for so long, it was time to settle down. If Qiao Jin continued to be willful and run away from the Huangfu family, they would target Qiao Jin's mother. His mother was Qiao Jin's sore spot. Elder Jean was right. He did not want to be the heir. He wanted to run away from the Huangfu family, but he had to worry about his mother. He could run away easily and willfully because he knew that the Huangfu family valued the heir very much, no matter what his identity was. As long as he was still the heir, the Huangfu family had to take good care of his mother, who gave birth to the heir that was valued by their ancestor. However, it was enough for him to escape from his family once. If there was a second time, even if he was the heir, the Huangfu family would not allow him to be willful. Qiao Jin clenched his fists. The golden light in his eyes grew brighter. The dazzling golden eyes caused the expressions of the 4 Huangfu clan members to turn even uglier. This was especially so for Huangfu and the other 2. Their eyes were filled with unconcealable jealousy. They were jealous that Qiao Jin had such a pair of pure golden eyes. He was jealous that Qiao Jin could become the successor of the Huangfu clan. Qiao Jin calmed down. Emperor Jin stroked his beard in satisfaction. The glint in his eyes was obvious. Pausing, his gaze looked towards Yan Xiaoyi, who was behind Qiao Jin. "It's rare that you like a young lady. This old man will make the decision and allow this young lady to follow you back to the Huangfu family. This will also prevent you from fleeing the Huangfu family because you can't see her." "No need." This time, Qiao Jin answered extremely quickly. He stood in front of Yan Xiaoyi. His tall and broad body blocked Yan Xiaoyi's figure completely behind him. "She's just my classmate. There's no need to drag an unimportant person into our Huangfu family." Qiao Jin's face darkened as he gave Elder Jin a warning look. His golden eyes shone with a cold light, as if the Golden Emperor dared to implicate Yan Xiaoyi. It was as though he was about to explode. That threatening look made the Golden Emperor's lips curl into a meaningful smile. The more nervous Qiao Jin was, the more he showed that he cared about this. Nirvana Realm Young Lady. Asterisk. Chapter 1890. Elder Jin knew what was going on, but in front of Qiao Jin he naturally wouldn't show it. He followed Qiao Jin's intentions and stroked his white beard. "Since that's the case, then leave this unrelated lady here. Successor young master, follow us back obediently." Qiao Jin looked at Elder Jin's scheming eyes, and his tightly pursed lips turned slightly pale. After a while, he lifted his feet and moved forward. Suddenly, a hand tugged at his sleeve from behind. Qiao Jin stopped in his tracks and turned back to look at her. Meeting a pair of reddened eyes, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. As if he knew what Yan Xiaoyi was thinking, he anxiously tried to break free from her tugging. However, Yan Xiaoyi threw herself into his arms. She wrapped her arms tightly around his firm waist and abdomen. Her beautiful red eyes stared at Qiao Jin without blinking. "Don't think of leaving me behind. Qiao Jin, no matter if you want to return to the devil class with me or go to whatever Huangfu family, don't think of leaving me behind." Yan Xiaoyi. He was furious and forcefully pulled Yan Xiaoyi out of his arms. "Don't mess around. This is not the time for you to be willful." Yan Xiaoyi stubbornly bit her lips. "I'm not messing around. I've said it before. I like you, I like you. No matter if you like me or not. I'll follow you wherever you go." She had already clearly told Qiao Jin her feelings for him. She had no intention of backing down because of Qiao Jin's unlove. Because she loved Qiao Jin. She believed that as long as she used her sincerity to accompany Qiao Jin, one day Qiao Jin would understand her feelings. If Qiao Jin left with these Huangfu family people, she would never have the chance to meet Qiao Jin again. No matter what, she didn't want to leave Qiao Jin. The lady's crisp and clear voice was filled with sincerity. Xiao Jin's body suddenly froze. His eyes glimmered as they met the lady's gaze. Such a bold and unpretentious confession and courtship made Xiao Jin's heart bloom, like flowers in spring, blooming with a riot of colors. He wanted to hug Yan Xiao Yi so much. He wanted to pour out all his feelings for her, to let her understand. However, Emperor Jin's cold, smiling voice rang in his ears. Young master successor, since this young lady loves you so much, why do you have to hurt her heart? It won't be a problem for our Huangfu clan to raise one more girl. He laughed cruelly, seemingly thinking for Qiao Jin's sake. His voice brought Qiao Jin back to his senses under the ecstasy of Yan Xiao Yi's confession. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and the impulse to embrace Yan Xiao Yi into his arms. Xiao Chen's face was ice-cold as he looked at Emperor Jin coldly. He exuded a strong magnetism that was extremely oppressive. Emperor Jin, you are one of the Huangfu clan's imperial elders. Your every word and action represents the Huangfu clan's identity and quality. Is this the quality of the Huangfu clan, to casually insult young ladies' reputation? He lifted his head slightly. His ordinary-looking face exuded a noble and arrogant aura. The smile on Emperor Jin's face darkened. He seemed to be angry that Qiao Jin actually dared to have such a dark expression on his face. However, no matter how displeased he was, Emperor Jin still lowered his head and said word by word, "Young master successor is right. I really shouldn't have insulted young lady's reputation." Qiao Jin brushed away the hand that was hugging his arm and glanced at Yan Xiao Yi coldly. "Yan Xiao Yi, you are a woman. Can you be a little more reserved? You've only gone through life and death with me for less than 2 days, and it has developed to the extent that you want to depend on me for the rest of your life? How worried are you about getting married?" Asterisk. Chapter 1891. Qiao Jin's lips twitched in disdain. "Just because you like me, I have to let you stay by my side? Yan Xiao Yi, can you be more shameless? Can you be more reserved?" His sharp voice pierced Yan Xiao Yi's eardrums like a sharp knife. Yan Xiao Yi's face turned pale instantly. Her eyes widened in shock as she looked at Qiao Jin in disbelief. She could not believe that these words came from Qiao Jin's mouth. He said she was shameless. She was not reserved. He hated her that much. Was he so unwilling to let her stay by his side? Yan Xiao Yi's hand was forcefully pushed away by Qiao Jin. She staggered back a few steps, almost losing her balance. Qiao Jin had already concealed his expression and walked towards Elder Jin expressionlessly. Elder Jin and the 3 Huangfu family members glanced in Yan Xiao Yi's direction. Then they walked towards Qiao Jin. Elder Jin stretched out his hand, wanting to grab Qiao Jin's arm and take him away. "Old man, how dare you touch my brother?" His clear voice seemed to be covered in layers of frost. Then a ray of dark light, as fast as lightning, exploded towards them. A vast amount of energy released a shocking power. Elder Jin sensed the surging energy and quickly retreated a few steps. Bang! A deafening sound rang out. The surroundings seemed to be cracked. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. At the place where Elder Jin had been standing just now, a beam of energy suddenly exploded. Elder Jin's face darkened. He could not help but be shocked. There was actually such a powerful force in the lower realm. How was this possible? If this force had hit him, he was afraid that he would either die or be crippled. Elder Jin's expression suddenly turned serious. He raised his eyes warily and looked in the direction where the force had come from. He had just raised his head when he saw a stunning girl dressed in a fiery long dress. She seemed to be stepping on the void as she walked towards him. Her surroundings were pitch black, and the faintly twinkling stars made her look like a fairy from the 9 heavens. Like a fiery red dress, like the clouds of sunset, a gorgeous arc swept past. Under everyone's gaze, The young girl had already walked in front of them. The light in the young girl's charming eyes was cold and filled with an extremely strong murderous intent. She was clearly a beauty that could topple cities. However, it caused one to feel a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. This young girl, who was she? Was she a human from the lower realm? No, impossible. How could there be such a beautiful and refined girl in the lower realm? Who are you? You dare to meddle in my Huangfu clan's matters? After Huangfu Fengyan saw the young girl's appearance, jealousy grew in her heart. Fourth young lady, Emperor Jin shouted. His face was gloomy as he glared at Huangfu Fengyan. Couldn't this idiot girl tell that this young lady wasn't someone to be trifled with? Then Elder Jean immediately bowed and looked at the young girl. Senior, although my fourth Mrs. words are a little harsh, they are the truth. This is a family matter. If Senior is passing by, is there something wrong with your Huangfu family's heirs? The young girl interrupted Elder Jean impatiently. Her charming eyes were filled with ridicule and coldness. Family matters? Xiao Jin and Xiao Yi are my Yi Qing Luo's family. Whatever family matters you want to settle, I'll talk to you. These words really didn't give any face to the Huangfu clan. Elder Jin's respectful attitude turned gloomy. Senior, you. Don't call me senior. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with arrogance. I'm only 15 years old. You're already half in the coffin. Aren't you ashamed to call me senior? Asterisk.